day on Monday, February 28th, 2022. We'll call this meeting to order at 9:15. We'll start off with roll call and possible action of excusing of any absent board member.
Chairperson Dolores Rodriguez, Vice Chairperson Mario Liscano,
Present.
Board Member Vittorio Puente.
Present.
We have quorum. We'll go ahead and entertain a motion to excuse our absent member. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Dolores Rodriguez
I-
from today's meeting.
I second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and Ms. Dolores is excused from this meeting. Next, we have public testimony. Do we have any pending? We do not. We will be going on next to our regular agenda. We'll start off with open session. Letter A, consideration and action of any on approving minutes of regular call meeting on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. We have been provided these for our review. Is there a motion to accept this meeting minutes as presented?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the regular called meeting on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022.
There is a motion, and I second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Minutes have passed. Next, we'll go on to letter B, consideration and possible action to determine whether certain exam questions should be eliminated from the promotional exam of rank battalion chief due to 4 questions having been included in the exam from an incorrect source material.
Hi, good morning, Analia Lanise for the record. So I'm gonna do a little bit of explanation, and this will actually correlate to items A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We recently had promotional testing for the ranks of battalion chief, lieutenant, and engineer within the fire department. We did use testing material from the SOPs within the fire department. We released the first source to the testing agency to produce the exam, and then there was an update to the SOPs, and we sent them the second set of questions or material for them to generate the questions. For one reason or another, there was a misunderstanding, so they ended up generating all 3 promotional exams with the first set of material, which was not the material that was given to the firefighters for study. This is why we're bringing this to your attention, because there was 7 questions for one of them, 4 questions for another one, and 2 questions for the third exam. So what we're wanting to propose to you guys today is to allow us to drop those questions, since the firefighters were not purview to that material and we don't want to hurt them, and recalculate the remaining questions for each exam with a little more worth in each question. They will still be able to score 100%, but 7 questions will be removed, 4 questions and 2 questions. And the list of eligibility will remain the same as all those passing, so nobody will be affected. But we wanted to make sure that we're fair to the firefighters and not hold it against them because they didn't have the study material for those questions.
So just really quick on that, this is, and I just want to ask our legal counsel, it will be able to, if we move on, to accept all the remaining ones under one motion? We will,
No, you have to do
one by one?
It would be,
Right.
so the first item would be making the determination whether or not to
Okay.
eliminate the questions, and then the remaining items on the agenda would then
Coincide to that.
put into effect what
Mhm.
Ms. Anais has suggested.
Okay, and I just want to hear also, just making sure that that's the recommendation you're providing for us?
Yes, that is staff recommendation, to remove the 7 questions and be able to recalculate the remaining questions in each exam to still allow employees to score up to 100.
As I understand it, it hasn't been recalculated as of yet.
No,
Okay, so this final score is based on the 7, 4, or 2 items that are part of the exam.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's what you have on your backup documentation.
So being said that we do have a recommendation from the city, I'd like to see if anybody would like to make a motion to go ahead and eliminate those from the promotional exam. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to eliminate from the promotional exam battalion chief due to the 4 questions having been included in the exam from an incorrect source material.
Second, being that there's a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We'll go on to the next item.
Consideration action to approve the eligibility list resulting from the battalion chief examination subject to possible recalculation. That's the document that you have in your packets, and that will be the final document.
And on this one, can we take C through G? No, we have to take each one? Okay.
You have to because each one has a different rank. So,
Excellent. Okay.
C is to approve the eligibility of B, and then E to approve the eligibility of D, and then G to approve the eligibility of F.
Understood. Being said that we have passed the elimination thing, I'd like to ask for a motion on a letter C.
I'd like to make a motion to consider and take action to approve the eligibility list resulting from the battalion chief examination subject to possible recalculation.
I second that. Being that there's a motion and a second, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. C has approved. Next, we'll go on to D, consideration and possible action determining whether certain exam questions should be eliminated. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to eliminate from the promotional exam of engineer fire inspector due to 7 questions having been included in the exam from an incorrect source material.
I second that. Being that there's a motion and a second, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have E. And I'd like to ask if we can have a motion.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the eligibility list resulting from the engineer fire inspector examination subject to possible recalculation.
I second that. Being that's a motion and a second, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries for letter E. Letter F, consideration and possible action determining whether certain exam questions should be eliminated from the rank of lieutenant. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to eliminate from the promotional exam of lieutenant due to 7 questions having been included in the exam from an incorrect source material.
I second that. Being that it's been a motion and second, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Letter F has passed. Next, we'll go on to consideration and taking action to approve eligibility list resulting from the lieutenant examination exam subject to possible recalculation. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the eligibility list resulting from the lieutenant examination subject to possible recalculation.
Second. There's a motion and second, so we'll go ahead and take that to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. We are now approving letter G. Now we'll go to G. Just to determine that on DNF, we are determining that the questions will be removed for the record.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. With that clarification, we want to make sure that we go on to H, where we will conduct a disciplinary hearing on disciplinary appeal filed by Lieutenant Crystal Guerra of the Pharr Fire Department pursuant to Section 143.053B, Texas Local Government Code and the Pharr Civil Service Commission rules. Letter H. Now we will go ahead and go into, do we go into executive session? Yeah. I'd like to go into executive session at this time to discuss with our legal. So in accordance with Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code, the Civil Service Board of Commissioners hereby gives notice and may meet. Let me see. Questions, discuss items listed in a public portion of the meeting. Agenda in accordance with the following below. So pursuant to Section 551.01, the Commission may convene in closed section. 551.074, 551.076, 551.084. We'd like to go into executive session at this time at 9:25 a.m. Okay, we're going to go ahead and come back into session at 9:39 a.m. And we'll go on to letter H, conduct disciplinary hearing and disciplinary appeal filed by Lieutenant Crystal Guerra of the Pharr Fire Department pursuant to section 143.053B, Texas Local Government Code and the Pharr Civil Service Commission rules. And so we can go ahead and get started.
Council, did you have anything you need to take up before we begin?
Just our objection, as you know, of under 143.052, this concerns alleged misconduct that occurred more than 180 days before the suspension.
This is can you all hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Thank you, sir. This is a legal issue, the challenge that he's bringing up. I'm happy to brief the commission on it now, since it is a legal issue. It would require a legal argument. Would you like to hear that at this time?
Yes,
sir.
we would.
Okay, so the discipline in this case, council is correct. The discipline in this case did occur outside of the 180 days. There is a rule in the statutes that says that. However, there's also a rule in the same statute that says a collective bargaining agreement can supersede that particular rule, the 180 days. There is a collective bargaining agreement with the city of Pharr, and this is in the exhibit binder that's in front of you. So if I could take you through a couple of points here. First, turn to tab E2, please. Okay, under E2, and again, this is 174.006, effect on civil service provisions. It states, a state or local civil service provision prevails over a collective bargaining contract under this chapter unless the collective bargaining contract specifically provides otherwise. City of Pharr is, of course, the collective bargaining city. So if you could turn to tab D, please. And it's page 11 at the bottom. The pages are on the bottom of Exhibit D, page 11. And we're looking at Article 24. Commissioners, are you at the page?
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir. So Article 24, Section 4 specifically talks about the predisciplinary due process hearing. The last sentence of that section, Section 4, states that the time period between the service of the notice and the actual meeting with the fire chief shall be excluded from the administrative limitations period. Okay. In this case, what happened is that the chief attempted to set up a disciplinary predisciplinary due process hearing. He attempted to do that within the 180-day time frame. However, when he sent it's called a 614 notice, and when he sent that notice out to Lieutenant Guerra responded in an email and asked for more time. She stated that she needed additional time for her attorney to be there at the due process hearing. But that's fine, and we don't contest that. She's well within her right to have that. But she asked for dates outside of the 180-day time window. The chief obliged her for the date that she requested, which was January 20th of 2022. And so the predisciplinary hearing was heard on January 20th, 2022. And so all of this stuff, all of this is in your binder, specifically on Exhibit L. This is the email that Lieutenant Guerra sent to Chief Rodriguez. And this was sent on January 13. Again, this was before the 180 days. And then Exhibit M here in the binder is the response from Chief Rodriguez, where he says, okay, we'll have your hearing outside on January 20th. Again, so that is our response to their 180-day challenge, is that the statute allows the collective bargaining agreement to specifically bargain around that date, and that the collective bargaining agreement did that, and that, even if that weren't the case, Lieutenant Crystal Guerra asked for it to be outside of the 180 days.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and just make sure that we note that there's a statute in place that we'd like to go ahead and follow at this time. Is there anything else that needs to be said prior to or on something that can be provided by either party?
I'm ready to begin with opening arguments if you are, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, the disciplinary action that's before you, the disciplinary action that's before you, it's actually two separate incidents that happened on the same day. The date at issue is July 21st, 2022. On this particular day, you're going to hear testimony and evidence here today. You're also going to hear actual audio from Lieutenant Guerra, and you're going to actually read the words that she wrote admitting to the events that are happening here, the events that we're talking to you about here today. On July 21st, she was supposed to start her shift at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Now, normally her shift begins at 9 a.m., but on this particular day, Deputy Chief Arispe, who is her immediate supervisor, had already told all the lieutenants on this specific day, you need to come in a half an hour early. And the reason for doing that is because the off-going shift is going to be turning in their PPE gear. PPE gear, personal protective equipment, otherwise known as bunker gear. You'll hear testimony about how that's the very thing that makes a firefighter in order to respond to calls and be able to rush into burning buildings. On this particular day, Lieutenant Guerra entered into an agreement with another lieutenant, who was the off-going lieutenant, wherein he was going to cover her for an hour. And so the agreement was that she would show up at 9:30, not 8:30. So an entire hour went by while the lieutenant was on shift without PPE gear, making him essentially ineffective to be a lieutenant for the station. Not only that, before this happened, on June 8th, 2021, Deputy Chief Arispe had sent an email out to all the lieutenants, specifically telling them this. And in the email, and you'll see this as well here at the hearing, he also said specifically in the email, there is no exchange of time for this date. It's been put in the email. And once Lieutenant Guerra got onto shift at 9:30, and again, you'll hear testimony, evidence, you'll actually hear admissions made by Lieutenant Guerra that she never requested any permission to do this exchange of time. Okay, so we have the no exchange of time in the email, and then we have the fact that she never requested any permission from her immediate supervisor. Once she got on shift, she never contacted her immediate supervisor, never said, hey, I did this, I just want to let you know, this happened. That didn't happen. Approximately an hour after this first incident, I'm referring to that as the first incident, the exchange of time. An hour later, Lieutenant Guerra left her duty station. She took off for 2 hours, and she actually clocked out and left. During this time, it was later found out that she had told a acting lieutenant of another station, I got to go take care of some personal business. I'll be gone for an hour or two. I'll be back. Can you have your station cover our station? Okay. Again, never requested any permission from Deputy Chief Arispe, who is her immediate supervisor. And the evidence and the testimony here today is going to show you that this was not a proper form of communication. This wasn't taken up the chain of command. And asking another lieutenant, an acting lieutenant for another station, to cover her station was policy violation in and of itself. She came back after 2 hours. She clocks back in. Then she goes to the machine that she clocks into. I'm going to be referring to that as the Chronos machine. And she attempts to retroactively apply annual leave to the 2 hours that she had already taken. Now, this was in fact denied later on by her immediate supervisor. So that annual leave was never approved. Again, at no point in time prior to the second incident, just like the first incident, did she ever request permission to take annual leave? Did she ever request permission from Deputy Chief Arispe, to go off on a whatever she was doing for personal reasons? And again, when she came back, just like the first incident, she never picked up the phone, called, text, email, whatever, to tell DC Arispe that she had in fact done this. Okay. After this occurred, a series of other events have taken place, which you're going to hear as well here today. There was a meeting between Lieutenant Guerra, DC Arispe, Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas, and Fire Chief Pilar Rodriguez. At the August 5th meeting, if you want to call it, Lieutenant Guerra admitted to these events. And you're going to hear this today, that the factual circumstances regarding what happened is not in dispute here. She admitted that she did not tell her supervisor on either of the occasions. And she also admitted to having an email sent to her telling her that she could not exchange time on this particular day. So after that took place, again, you'll hear additional testimony, and we had a challenge earlier that, you know, you're going to look at later about this 180-day challenge. 614 notice went out telling her, hey, we're contemplating discipline against you, and we're giving you your opportunity to come in here and say your piece at your predisciplinary hearing. When that event took place, and we do have the audio for you here today, you can listen to it. Again, she refers back to a response that she puts in writing, which again admits that these events took place. She does provide some excuses for them, but she does not dispute that the events took place. This was admitted to during the predisciplinary hearing. So that brings me to why we're here today. This is a disciplinary appeal. I mean, this is not a trial. The discipline has already happened. Okay. Under the rules, the commission is here for basically for two reasons. One, to determine if the if the charges as charged against Lieutenant Guerra are both true and correct, and if the discipline was not unreasonable. That's the only reason we're here today. And we'll go through this here, but under Exhibit O of the binder, you have the document in front of you. What's on those four corners is what we're looking at here today. The evidence that you're going to hear in the testimony you're going to hear is the evidence and testimony that Chief Rodriguez looked at when making that determination, which is why we're presenting it for you today. At the end of this, I think you're going to be presented with overwhelming amounts of evidence to show that the 10-day discipline, and taken in conjunction with the fact that Lieutenant Guerra has been disciplined for the same issue before on a progressive discipline level, that the 10 days is more than appropriate. And we'd be asking you to uphold that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Is there any other argument or anything you would like to state this time?
Are you addressing yourself to me or to anybody?
To yourself, sir.
No.
Excellent. Okay, we can go on.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to call Deputy Chief Carlos Ariste. And if we can have him sworn in as well. Yes, ma'am.
And we would invoke the rule, but is this the only witness? Or
Oh, I have two.
they're
But-
not here?
That's fine. I'm more than happy to do that. Once he's done, he can take off.
solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
Oh, let me help you out. Okay. Test. Deputy Chief, you're gonna have to hook this to your. Okay. Thank you. Okay, can you please state your name for the record?
For the record, Carlos Arispe Jr.
And you work for the Pharr Fire Department.
Correct.
Okay, in what capacity, sir?
I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations currently.
And how long have you been in that position?
Currently, I'm going on a year since March of last year on this position.
What position did you do before that?
I was a fire marshal.
Fire marshal. And as a fire marshal, are you also a licensed peace officer?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been with the department, sir?
Currently, 33 years.
Deputy Chief Ariste, are you the immediate supervisor to Lieutenant Crystal Guerra?
Yes, sir.
Is it go Lieutenant Guerra and then you directly, you're the direct line immediate supervisor to her?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you some questions about events that took place on July 21st, 2021 in relation to Lieutenant Crystal Guerra, okay?
Yes, sir.
Can you briefly describe for the commission what happened on that particular day with respect to Lieutenant Guerra?
On the 21st of, it was, there had been an email. We were supposed to be picking up the bunker gear on that day. It was going to be sent out for advanced inspection. Prior to that, one shift had already completed that. Afterwards, we were supposed to go, myself and Deputy Chief Salazar were supposed to go and pick up all the gear for, I believe it was B shift. So we went to go pick up the gear. I had spoken with Chief Salazar, and I picked up the gear for Station 1 and 2. He was going to pick up the gear for Station 3 and 4.
Let me stop you there for a second.
Okay.
What station is, at this time on July 21st, 2021, what station was Lieutenant Guerra in charge of?
Station 3.
Station 3, okay. And you did mention an email that you had sent out, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you do me a favor? Can you take that binder and turn it to Exhibit F, please? Okay. Do
Yes,
you
sir.
recognize that document, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is that document?
It was an email that was sent out to all lieutenants, including staff, advising them of the dates of the advance, the pickup for the bunker gear.
Okay. And I'd like to go over exactly, to the best of your ability, what exactly is bunker gear?
The bunker gear is, as you referred to it, PPE, is gear that firefighters utilize when they respond to fires. It is a special made material so that the firefighters can make entry into fires. They also respond with it to accidents, and basically the majority of the calls, they respond with this gear, specially made gear, from the helmet to pants to everything as far as what the firefighters utilize.
With respect to this particular gear, as far as, I guess, the blouse and the trousers are concerned, are these specifically tailored to the individual officers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does each officer have like 5 different sets of these things, or is there just one?
One set, sir.
One set. And what's the procedure for getting a set of bunker gear? Do they get it when they first come to fire department? I mean, how does that happen?
Yes, sir. Initially, when they first enter the fire department, they get measured. So this gear is specially measured for each firefighter, for each individual. And we were talking about it this morning. It is also inspected. It has to be inspected, make sure that the gear is good as far as there is no tears on it, there's no pinholes, there's nothing wrong with it.
So is there like a storage locker where there's just a bunch of extra sets of these things lying around?
We have a storage where we keep basically some old gear. Yes, sir.
So if a firefighter does not have this particular gear with him, the tailored gear, can he fight fires? Can he go into a burning building?
We try to accommodate for per se, if the gear is damaged or something like that, we try to accommodate the firefighter during that time until we get the gear back.
On this particular day, the off-going shift, if we look down here at the email,
Mhm.
this B shift looks like the shift that's July 21st, 2021. Is that the date and the shift that we're talking about with respect to Lieutenant Guerra?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so Lieutenant Guerra is which shift under here?
A shift.
She's A shift, okay. And it says A shift will report to duty at 8:30 to cover for B shift.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is the B shift the one that's turning in their PPE gear?
The one that we're picking up, yes, sir.
Okay. And if we move down to the end of this email, there's some text down there where it talks about no exchange of time. What does that say?
No exchange of time. Substitution of time is changing times with the firefighters with another firefighter.
Yeah, go ahead, just read what's down there.
No exchange of time will be permitted during these dates.
Okay. Now, is it within your authority to send this particular email to advise the lieutenants of this and that they can't exchange time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just, for purposes of clarity, why is it important that there's no exchange of time during this particular period?
Because of the fact that gear was going to be picked up. So the lieutenant that was coming off shift or wasn't going to have gear. B shift personnel were not going to have any gear from 8:30 forward.
And when you say B shifts, you're talking about the entire shift?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess is the purpose of doing that to make sure it's like a one fell swoop, all the firefighters get their gear turned in, so you don't have to piecemeal this over a series of days?
Yes.
Objection leading.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Okay, so there are other dates. I want to look at a couple other dates on here too. You said Crystal Guerra was A shift?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about this first date here? It says July 6, 2021. What's A shift doing on that particular day?
Which one?
It says A shift, right above B shift. It says A
7.
shift.
Yes.
It says chiefs will pick up gear at 8:30. C shift will report for duty at 8:30 to cover for A
That
shift.
was shift, Lieutenant Guerra's shift. On that day, we picked up their gear. So C shift is the one that reported in at 8:30.
Gotcha. So on July 6, 2021,
Mhm.
was Lieutenant Guerra's shift the one that was turning in the gear that day?
Yes, sir.
And again, for purposes of clarity, when you're looking up here in the subject, or excuse me, in the, I guess it would be in the area where the 2 column is. Do you see Crystal Guerra's name anywhere up there as a person that this email was addressed to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So on this particular day, you said that you were at another station. Deputy Chief Salazar was the one that was supposed to pick up at Station 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell the commission what exactly, so what happened with respect to this exchange of time? Did you find out what happened? Did Lieutenant Guerra show up at 8:30 in the morning? Did she show up at 9:30?
Objection hearsay.
Overruled. So to answer the question, please.
On this particular day, I found out about this interchange or what had happened later on. I received a call from Chief Rodriguez in regards to this.
Okay. So at any point in time, let me ask this a different way. So at any point in time before July 21st, 2021, did Crystal Guerra ever call you and ask to exchange time with another firefighter?
No, sir.
At any time before July 21st, 2021, did Crystal Guerra ever text or email you or use any other form of communications to either ask or tell you that she wasn't going to be showing up at 8:30?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you learn about this only after the fact?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In showing up at 9:30 in the morning, was this in violation of the order that you gave her on June 8th, 2021?
Yes, sir.
If you can go ahead and turn to Exhibit G, please. There's a document in front of you there, Chief. Can you please, have you ever seen that document before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and just briefly, not what is this about, but what is this document?
This is basically the investigation, the narrative as far as the investigation I had conducted.
Okay, and you mentioned that you said you learned about this later from the chief. So what did you find out during your investigation? Well, actually, strike that. I want to talk to you about the second incident now, okay? Was there another incident that took place on July 21st, 2021, other than the exchange of time with Lieutenant Guerra?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell the commission about that, please?
I found out later on through the investigation that Lieutenant Guerra had gotten annual leave, 2 hours of annual leave afterwards.
Okay. Can you explain that a little bit? Like in your letter, you go into a little bit more detail on that. Can you give the commission a little more detail into what happened?
You want me to read the part or?
Well, let's do this. Okay. So let's go down here and let's go down to You have a part down here at the end of your first paragraph that says note. See that at the end of your first paragraph? It says note. It's the last, or it's the second to last sentence.
Yes.
Okay. And go ahead and just read that line.
A substitution of time request was logged into Chronos by Lieutenant Guerra on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021 at 09:33. In addition, Lieutenant Guerra had submitted annual leave for 2 hours on Chronos on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021 at 12:31 p.m. without approval from Chief Perez or staff.
And that's what I want to talk to you about. So what's your understanding of what happened there? She's gone for 2 hours. Well, what happened?
It's basically, she was not at her station for 2 hours. She comes back and she logs into Chronos, stating that she had taken those 2 hours without any authorization or permission.
And that's what I want to ask some more about. So what's the typical, or it's not typical, start that. What is the procedure for requesting annual leave? Is that something you have to do before you take the leave, or is that something you do after?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what's the
Before.
procedure for that? Before? Okay.
Yes.
So how would Lieutenant Guerra go about properly requesting annual leave?
First of all, advising me about it, being that it's that day, and then submitted it into Chronos that she's going to be taking those days off.
Okay, so she's supposed to ask for permission before she does that?
Yes, sir.
Did that happen in this case?
No, sir.
So at any time prior to, I guess, leaving her duty station at 10:30 in the morning, did she ever ask permission to do that from you?
No, sir.
How about when she came back, when she got back from her, I guess, hiatus from work, did she call you and let you know, hey, I did this?
No, sir.
How did you find out about this?
After conducting the investigation, found out that she had taken annual leave.
Now, also here in your statement, it looks like you referenced that this is not the first time that Lieutenant Guerra has done something like this without asking for your permission.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just briefly, what can you recall with respect to that?
The incident prior to this, it was basically the same incident. She left the station. She left her without advising the immediate supervisor. So there was a continuation of the prior violation.
Okay. All right, if you could turn to Exhibit H, please. And specifically, if you could turn to the first leave request form that you see. So keep turning the pages. I think it's page 3 in there. One more page. Okay. What is this form here that we're looking at?
This is the hard copy actual leave request.
Okay. And is this the leave request for the 2 hours?
Yes, sir.
So the second incident?
Yes, sir. From 10:30 to 12:30.
Okay. And was this leave request approved or disapproved?
It was disapproved.
Okay. You can turn to the next page, please. Okay. And what is this document here?
This is the leave request for Lieutenant Guerra.
Okay. And is this concerning the first incident, the 9:30, coming in late at 9:30?
This is concerning the substitution of time. Yes,
Okay. And was this approved or disapproved?
it was disapproved.
And just to be clear, as you sit here today as Lieutenant Guerra's immediate supervisor, you did not approve either the first incident or the second incident?
Yes, sir. I didn't approve.
Okay, can you turn to Exhibit J, please? Okay. I want to ask you, under number 4 here, or first of all, have you seen this document before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is this document?
It's a response to notice of complaint and investigation into possible misconduct.
Okay. On number 4 here, it talks about, or looks like Crystal Guerra talks about an event that took place on August 5th, 2021. It says, I participated in an interview with Chief Pilar Rodriguez, Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas, and Deputy Chief Carlos Ariza.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember being at that meeting?
Yes, sir.
Were the first and the second incidents discussed at that meeting?
Uh,
The best that you can remember?
that I can recall, the second incident was,
Okay. Do you remember hearing anything at that meeting where Crystal Garrett denied being out of work for those 2 hours? In other words, I guess I asked that wrong. Did Crystal Garrett dispute that she took 2 hours and went away
no,
from her
sir.
job? Okay. To your knowledge, was she telling you that she had requested leave before she left? Did she dispute any of the things?
No, sir.
Pass the witness.
How you doing this morning?
Doing well, Mr.
Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about that email you sent out.
Yes, sir.
That's under F, if you want to take a look at that again.
Yes, sir.
Was the gear able to be picked up? Were there any problems with that?
The gear was picked up.
Okay, so no problems, nothing happened that wasn't supposed to happen?
There was that day, afterwards, when we picked up all the gear, it was, determined that the company didn't come in afterwards.
Well, your email basically just tells lieutenants and says advise your personnel, correct? So
Yes.
she would have an obligation to advise her personnel.
Yes, sir.
And that evidently accomplished because they all turned in their gear, didn't they?
With the exception of one individual.
Okay, but doesn't mean
No.
she didn't advise them though, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you also say down here, A shift. Now, you said she was which shift?
A shift.
Okay, and the chiefs will pick up the gear at 8:30 and C shift's supposed to cover. Did that happen on July 6th as it was supposed to happen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then basically everything went well on that day.
On the first day, yes, sir.
Then when B shift was supposed to turn in their gear, A shift was supposed to report at 8:30, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's one of the things that you feel that was inappropriate because she didn't show up at 8:30?
Yes, sir.
All right. But if we look at the, if we go on down to, well, again, it says at the bottom of that, lieutenants, once again, it is very important that you inform your personnel, right?
Sure.
And you have no reason to believe she did not inform her personnel because they had their gear ready, correct?
Apparently,
Except for one person.
well, according to some of the other individuals, they were not aware that it was supposed to pick up.
And again, that's not anything that you know of. That's just your hearsay again.
Found out afterwards as well.
Well, from who?
From some of the personnel,
Give me names.
her personnel.
Give me names.
I believe in one of the statements, if I'm
The
not,
statements, I'm sorry, did you have statements?
well, from her personnel, yes.
Written statements?
Yes.
And where are those?
Those are in the investigations. I don't know which section though.
I'm going to object on relevancy grounds because she's not being charged with not telling her.
Sustained.
Okay, well, let's move on then. We'll get to that later. But at any rate, so she's not being charged with that, so you have no complaint about her not informing her personnel, correct?
Correct. I cannot honestly say that she didn't advise her personnel,
Or they just weren't paying attention?
or maybe they were not paying attention.
All right, let's go to your August 2nd, 2021 letter, which is under, I guess it's paragraph folder G. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Who prepared that?
I did.
You typed it all up yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it says, right there, it says, down in about the halfway through, it says, Lieutenant Garza informed me that Lieutenant Guerra had texted Lieutenant Garza to ask if he could cover for her until 9:30. He said that he forgot about his bunker gear was to be picked up at 8:30 that morning, correct?
Yes, sir.
So basically, he forgot about that email too, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Did he get disciplined for that?
Yes, sir.
What did he get?
The written reprimand.
And when it goes on to say that she left, tell me, what is emergency leave? I've looked through the documents and I can't find it anywhere. Let me ask you this. Have you ever taken emergency leave?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've taken it in accordance, and let me show you. And I think it's in one of the tabs, but the City of Pharr Fire and Police Civil Service Commission's rules and regulations, is emergency leave covered in there?
In the SOPs you're talking about?
This one,
I'm not too sure.
the rules and regulations. Okay, where is it covered? How do you know how to do it?
I know that emergency leave is not on Chronos,
Not,
not on Chronos. It's just annual leave.
okay, so if you're going to take emergency leave, you have to put
You
it.
advise your
Let me just
supervisor.
finish the question first. The court reporter is
Yes,
trying
sir.
to take down the questions and the answers, just to get a clear record for the
Not a
appellate court.
problem, Mr. Hope.
Okay, but we're still talking over each other. All right. With respect to Cronus, you said that's just for annual leave, correct?
Correct.
And if you take emergency leave, then that just goes on Cronus as annual leave.
Yes, sir.
And you have taken it on how many occasions?
I can't recall.
More than one?
More than once, yes.
Less than 100?
Yes.
Between 1 and 100?
maybe
Can you
so.
narrow it? Okay. At any rate, and the way you do that is you go on Cronus and mark it as annual leave.
Yes.
Is that what Lieutenant Guerra did in this
Yes.
instance? Okay, gotta let me finish answering because I know you know the question, but let's get it so we can get a clear record. And that's what she did in this instance, correct?
Correct.
And you said that when you had the investigation on August 2nd, 2021, what was it that you were investigating on that date?
That I was investigating when I was told by Chief Rodriguez in regards to the exchange of time, that she had taken exchange of time and without any approval, without communication, without letting anybody or staff know that she had taken annual leave.
Okay.
Or not annual leave, but exchange of time. And then afterwards found out that she had taken annual leave.
That's what I'm trying to find out. When you had the meeting on August 2nd, did you know about the emergency leave yet or not?
Objection as to the, sorry, as the characterization on August 2nd.
Sustained.
Well, you know that what she said was she was taking emergency leave, correct? You know that.
Afterwards, I found out that it was emergency.
So you found that out from the chief, didn't you?
No, I found that out when we had the meeting.
Oh, okay. And then later when the chief had his meeting with her, did you find out, they have a recording of it. Did you listen to that?
On that day, yes.
Okay. And did you find out what the reason she was doing it? Because
Yes,
of her mother's cancer?
I found out, not through the recording, but I found out that it was apparently according to Lieutenant Guerra because of medical illness.
For her mother?
Yes.
And her mother who's been diagnosed with cancer?
Yes.
Okay. But at any rate, let's go back. On the August
Assuming
2nd,
facts, not in evidence.
I'm sorry?
Objection, assuming facts, not in evidence.
Sustained.
No, Mr. Hole, if I can add on that, I have no issues in regards to emergency. I've gone through cancer myself as far as my wife going through cancer. She no longer is here because of that. I did take emergency several days, as a matter of fact, because of that. But the difference is that every time I would take emergency leave or leave, like you mentioned, annual leave, I would always inform my immediate supervisor.
Okay, but what I'm looking for is some rule or regulation that says that's who you're supposed to inform for
Yes.
for emergency leave. Do you see that anywhere?
For emergency leave or leave, notify your immediate supervisor, yes.
Okay, where does it say that for emergency leave?
It says on section 100.14, I believe, section X.
Let me see if I can find that. Was
Yes.
that noted in your document here?
I
Your
believe
policy
so.
and procedures?
Yes.
Okay. 100.15, is that it?
100.14,
Okay.
section X.
Officer shall perform his duties, accept the responsibilities, and have the authority of the rank which they occupy, that part?
Keep immediate supervisors informed on activities and their locations when away from assigned stations.
Okay. And that was under 100.14?
Sir.
Okay. And that specifically says it applies to emergency leave anywhere?
No.
Okay. Is there a situation you can imagine where something's of such an emergency that you don't have time to notify anybody until you get back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you aware who she did notify at the time she left?
Yes, sir.
Who did she notify?
She notified the acting lieutenant at Station 4
Okay, what did she wanted him to do?
to cover for Station 3.
Did she give him an estimated amount of time she'd be gone?
I believe, not exactly how long she was gonna be gone.
Remember hearing 1 to 2 hours?
A possibility, yes.
Okay. And then, did she also notify her crew?
Her crew, yes,
Okay. And was she also in communication at the whole time that somebody could have called her by phone?
yes.
Okay.
More than, I mean,
You have no
yes.
reason to believe she wasn't?
Yes,
Okay, we'll put it that way. And so, with respect to the, taking the 2 hours, it says here in all these things annually, but you did find out at the August 2nd meeting that it was emergency leave, correct? That she was requesting?
no.
I thought you said that you found
I
out,
found out when we had the meeting with, Chief Rodriguez, Chief Salinas, that she came in, that's when I found out it was emergency leave.
when was that meeting?
That was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I had the table of contents, so I'm not too sure on the date. I know it was afterwards.
It says, oh, okay, was it maybe on August 5th? Because I see on this, this
Yeah, I believe.
notice of
it could've-
complaint says on August 5th, I along with Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas.
Correct.
Okay, so 3 days later,
3 days later.
okay. And,
Never did I know that she had taken emergency leave. But that's what I'm saying, Mr. Holmes,
until the 5th,
until the 5th,
okay. But on the 5th, you found out that that's what it was.
that it was emergency leave, that she had mentioned it was emergency leave.
Have you ever had emergency leave request denied?
No,
Okay. Has anybody at the Pharr Fire Department ever had emergency leave request denied?
not to my knowledge.
Okay, but her emergency leave request was denied.
Her annual leave was denied.
Well, is there a way you can put it down as emergency leave?
Yes, if you were to communicate with your supervisor and let him know that it's emergency. If it's an emergency leave, nobody's gonna deny, none of the chiefs are gonna deny. It's an emergency, we understand that. I mean, it's happened to me, it's happened to other firefighters as well.
Sure.
So to per se, if it was emergency leave and she would have communicated, letting me know that that was the case, automatically I would have said, go ahead. It's an emergency. But during this date, she never communicated with myself or nobody on staff. The only person that she communicated with was with an acting lieutenant at Station number 4. If she had the time to communicate with acting lieutenant at Station 4, why she just pick up the phone and call myself? Let me know, look, I have an emergency, chief. I need to go. My mom, you think I would have said no? I would have said, of course, go and take care of this. Take as much as you can, because I've gone through it myself. And even if a chief or somebody would have said no, I would have said, I would have still went. I would have dealt with it later. But at least I would have let my supervisor, keep them in the loop of, look, I have an emergency, I gotta go.
Yeah, but my question was, do you know of
I
anybody
understand.
else that's ever had emergency leave denied?
Negative, sir.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
All right, and do you remember looking at, I think it was under tab H, where it shows, her request for leave was denied, do you see that, disapproved?
Yes, sir.
And when did you sign that?
That was a exchange of time, and I'm not too sure on the date that I signed it.
Well, I mean, was this before or after you found out it was emergency leave?
No, it wasn't. The first was, the one that I signed here is a change of time, sir.
The 10:30 to 12:30 was not the change of time, was it?
It was a change of time. That 12:30, no. That was signed by Chief Salinas.
Well, let's take a look. Let's look at Exhibit H. Okay, and where she had the thing requesting, basically taking annual leave, which is what you do for emergency leave, correct?
H.
That's the way it's done, right? You got H with me?
Yeah, hold on. On the first one or the second one, sir?
Well,
Because there's
I was going
two.
from the front, you're going from the back, so we'll go from the back. Okay, let's look at the first one from the rear.
Which is myself, yes. I signed
That
that
was
one.
from note clocked in at 9:30, and she was looking for leave beginning at 9 to 10, correct?
Yeah, the time here is 9 to 10, but it was actually 8:30 to 9:30.
Well, she was actually clocked in at 9:30, correct? You could confirm that?
Yes,
Okay. And then the previous one, the one right in front of that, is that the one that was emergency leave?
that was the one that was annual leave, yes. You see, there's no distinction here because Kronos does not,
I
you know.
understand.
yes.
But this, you found out from her that it was emergency leave, even though you think that she should have notified you and didn't
On a later date, yes.
on the 5th. But when
Yes.
this was signed after the 5th, wasn't it?
Objection, assuming facts not in evidence.
I don't know. sir.
Sustained.
Well, I'm just asking you.
I don't know
leave
when it was signed or
Okay. Was it signed by the city manager?
on this one, not this form.
Is it supposed to be?
Yes, sir.
So do you have anything that indicate that it was actually disapproved and by the city manager?
No, this was basically a form stating that requesting that annual leave and exceed the time was not approved. It didn't go through, in other words, that's what I'm saying. They didn't go through the city manager.
So she was just docked those 2 hours and never got those back then, right?
I believe so.
All right. But again, this is the first time you've ever heard of somebody asking for emergency leave and having it denied. And again, with Kronos, this is the only way you can do it, right?
Objection,
Well-
mischaracterization testimony.
Sustained.
You want me to repeat the question? This is the only way you can do it with Kronos, right? Is annual leave.
On annual leave, you do the form, of course, and actually this form, the leave request is handed in first and then it's approved afterwards.
With emergency leave, you go ahead and
Oh,
do the whole.
emergency
Okay.
leave, and this is where I think you're confused. Annual leave and emergency leave. Annual leave is requested, emergency leave is communicated, in other words. Like I mentioned, if she would have at least said it was an emergency, you know, that she needs to go because of whatever emergency she has, it wouldn't be no problem. She would have came back and filled this out. Never did I know that it was emergency until we had the meeting afterwards, when it was stated that it was an emergency.
Right,
Which
and that's what I'm
was
talking about. My
3
question.
days or 4 days later, which was 3 or 4 days on the day that you mentioned, August 5th.
And did you ever ask her what the emergency was? On the 5th?
No.
Did you ever ask her how did it get handled okay?
I found out later on that it was an emergency due to family.
Right, but she told you on that day it was an emergency. Did you, as her supervisor?
She
Excuse
told
me,
us.
we can only talk one at a time.
Yes.
These are rules. We've got to follow
Yeah, I
them.
understand.
Okay. Did you, you knew on the 5th that she said it was an emergency, correct? August 5th.
We need to move on with this. You're asking the same question. We need to
I
move
didn't
on.
get an answer, sir. Could
She
you?
never.
Let's move on.
She never said.
I'm not going to move on. This is critical to what we're talking about. You want to cut me off again? Do it. But I'm just saying, this is supposed to be, kind of our chance to be able to provide you with information about what actually happened. So my question is, on August 5th, you found out it was an emergency, correct?
She stated it was an emergency, yes, sir.
And at that time, did you ask her, well, did everything come out okay? How's everything going or anything like that? As any concerned supervisor would do?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, answering the question. Thank you. I'd ask that we take a break at this time.
Well, I'm in the middle of my cross-examination, so I'd object to that.
I'm okay with him finishing his cross. It's up to you.
But if you
all.
want to do it,
Whatever you
go
want.
ahead. It's up to you.
Thank you.
So what is the chair or this vice chair's decision?
We'll go ahead and we'll finish off here and then immediately we'll be able to go on for a break.
Okay. Well, at any rate, let's go on then. And so with respect to the let's see if we can go to the next one that you all talked about was J, which was the response to the notice of complaint. You do see that dated January 10th, 2022?
January 10th.
You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you explain to the commission why it took from your August 5th investigation all the way to January to make a decision as to whether there was anything wrong?
Objection, relevance. He's also not the fire chief. He didn't make a
Sustained.
decision with respect to discipline.
Do you have any reason why it would have taken long? Was he trying to gather information for the fire chief or anything like that?
Relevance.
Why it took that long, you're talking about, or why?
Well, sure, you made your report on, you met with her on August 5th, correct? Did you report it to the chief immediately?
Yes,
Did you all have any discussion about it being emergency leave that you weren't aware of before?
no.
You didn't pass that on to him?
We found out, on August the 8th, or the meeting afterwards.
I thought that we decided that was the 5th. Do I
The
have the
5th,
wrong
yeah,
date?
I get on that day.
Sure,
On the
you-
5th,
okay.
yes.
You found out on August 5th. I mean,
We
this was,
found out, and I believe, I can't speak for the chief, but I believe that he inquired to find out what the emergency was.
and did you tell him?
The lieutenant never advised them what the emergency was.
But when the chief asked at his hearing, were you aware that, have you listened to this?
No, I haven't listened to that.
Okay. Well, what about your August 5th meeting? Was that recorded?
No,
Do you remember what happened during that meeting?
yes,
You
based
remember?
on the meeting that we had, well, you're talking about as far as, Chief Rodriguez, myself, and Chief Salinas?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do
I
you
wrote
remember?
down some notes that she responded to.
All right. And do you remember her explaining that she was just in a kind of a state of panic and so she didn't think to call? But that she,
No.
that it would have, don't remember that?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you aware that there might be a recording of that meeting?
Objection, speculation.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. All righty. Now with,
I'm not too sure if, we didn't have a recording of that meeting. I don't know if Lieutenant Guerra recorded that.
all right. Now with respect to the August 5th, you reported to the chief, and I assume you reported accurately that she claimed it was emergency leave, correct?
She mentioned, yes,
You mentioned it to the chief?
she mentioned it.
Right, she mentioned it to you in your meeting. Then you reported to the chief, correct?
She mentioned on August 5th, as far as she mentioned when we were together, or when we brought, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The meeting on, after the second, you filed the thing.
I
you had a-
remember she mentioned it was, an emergency.
I understand that, and we've covered that a couple times. What my question is, when you then reported to the chief, did you pass that on too, that this 2 hours was actually emergency leave?
I believe so, yes.
Pardon me?
I believe so.
Okay, and
I
did he
can't
say,
recall.
what, can you find out what it was, or what the cause was, or why she needed the emergency leave?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, did he ask you to do anything else between August 5th and January, when he finally brought these charges against her? About that?
No,
Okay, so you can't think of any reason why there would have been a delay of almost 5 months, 3 months? 4
Objection,
months?
relevance.
Sustained.
Okay. Now, the next one you all talked about, well, let me ask you this. We'll go back to your letter.
my statement,
Yes, sir, under G. And this is what you thought were the rules that she violated, correct?
yes, sir.
And under F, you have the fire chief shall approve any annual vacation leave scheduled. At this time, you didn't realize that this was emergency leave, correct, when you wrote this?
No, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to show you what the chief sent her. If you look under tab I. Okay, and he says she's possibly violated a lot of rules, so let's go look at those if we can. If you look at page 2 of his letter, Rule 24, adoption of rules relating to discipline. The rules adopted herein which prescribe cause for removal or suspension of a firefighter fall within one or more of the following subject areas. 3 is active incompetence. Did she have any acts of incompetence?
I'm going to object to this line of questioning because this is not his document. I mean, you can examine the chief on this.
Sustained.
No, I just want to know if you know of any acts of incompetence.
I sustain that, sir.
But this is her immediate supervisor, and I think he would be one that would know because the chief didn't have any day-to-day contact with her. And so that's why this witness is important to know. So we need to know from him if there's any acts of incompetence.
I mean, with respect, he didn't discipline her, the chief did. So
It's
really
neither-
only his decision and it's his document.
Yes, I'm just asking you, are you aware of any acts of incompetence with Lieutenant here?
Just failure to communicate, sir.
Okay, well, we'll get to the failure to communicate in a minute. What about neglect of duty? Are you aware of any neglect of duty? Is that also just the communication?
Yes.
And acts showing lack of good moral character, anything like that?
Yeah,
Just the communication?
Same objection. If we're just gonna go through each one of these, you can go through it with the
Sustained.
chief.
Well, let's look at the communication one that you said. And that's maintaining communications 100.33. That on page 4, do you see that?
Which one?
100.33, maintaining communications. You with me?
Yes.
Says members on duty are when officially on call shall be directly available by normal communication. And to your knowledge, she was available by normal communications, was she not?
Yes.
Okay. Or shall keep their office, headquarters, or superior officer informed. You did say she notified her office, correct?
Which office is that?
Her office, her crew.
Objection, the same objection, and this is not even the charging document. This is a 614 notice. It's not the notice and order of discipline. So I really don't see any relevance here asking a witness who did not draft this document questions about something that's not before this commission.
Sustained.
Well, then we'll go to the actual document. But you can imagine being charged with something without good faith would be bad, wouldn't it? Let's go to O. This is the one that's the notice. And let's go to the same very section. And now it's on page 4, 100.33, maintaining communications.
I have the same
I'll read the
objection.
same.
He didn't draft this document. What's the
Excuse me, his
relevance?
objection last time was it wasn't the charging doc, the one that actually awarded
Sustained.
it.
Well, it was two
course.
objections respectfully. It wasn't the charging document, but he also didn't draft it.
And again, I'm not asking you, I'm just asking you, if, to your knowledge, did she maintain communications in accordance with 100.
We sustain, sir.
Of course. Well, let me ask you this. Does 100.33 say members on duty are when officially on call shall be directly available by normal communication or shall keep their office, headquarters, or superior office informed of the means by which they may be reached when not immediately available? Did I read that correctly?
Is that the same question, sir?
I'm sorry?
Is that the same question in
No,
regards
sir,
to?
it's a different question. It's not asking you of your own opinion. I mean, I assume as the deputy chief, you have knowledge of the rules and regulations, and everybody's required to, because it even says in this document that everybody's required to have knowledge of them, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you lead from above, right? Lead by example.
By example.
Okay, so you have knowledge of the rules, right?
Yes, sir.
So you have knowledge of this rule,
Yes.
and under this rule, it's basically written in the disjunctive, not conjunctive, correct? It says or, doesn't say and. Members on duty are when officially on call shall be directly available by normal communications and shall keep, it just said or, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so to your knowledge, you have no information that she did not maintain communications as required by 100.33, correct?
Relevance.
Sustain.
How could it not be relevant
You're
when that's
asking
when
in
one of the
legal
things, excuse me, we
interpretation.
can only talk at one at a time.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Again, for the benefit of the court reporter.
Yes, sir.
You want to go ahead and say yours, then I'll say mine.
Whenever
How
you're
could
ready,
it not be relevant when it's one of the charges that she was found guilty of? I ask you, how could that not be relevant?
Go ahead and respond.
All right, thanks. He did not draft this document and he did not discipline your client. That's why it's not relevant. You can take these questions with the fire chief.
We shall, but again, it's relevant as her direct supervisor, whether he thinks she was in violation of it. It's entirely relevant.
I've already asked him that question a lot.
What was the
That's
answer? That she was not?
You've
You
already
said
asked.
I've asked it. Was the answer she was not in violation?
So am I supposed to read back the transcript to you?
Well, you said I've asked it. I would assume you would remember the answer.
I have heard you ask the question.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Is the answer correct that she is not in violation of 100.33 regardless of what the chief said?
Same objection.
Sustain.
When you're on duty, do you make sure you're directly available by normal communications?
Yes, sir.
And do you have any reason to believe that Lieutenant Crystal Guerra did not do the same thing when she was on her emergency leave?
No,
Passive
she
witness.
didn't communicate.
I'm sorry. Oh, did you pass?
I did.
Oh, thank you,
Gotta
sir.
pay attention.
Sorry?
Got to pay attention.
Oh, yeah, sorry. This year is not so good from the Marine Corps. Apologize. Did y'all want to take a,
Yeah, I'd like to take a small break at this time. Okay, we're back from break. It's 10:51. Mr. Hayward, he passed on the witness. Do you have any questions for him?
just a couple of follow-up, sir? Thank you. Deputy Chief, do you understand you're still under oath?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just a couple of clarifying points. So with regard to the exchange of time incident, did Lieutenant Crystal Guerra ever seek your permission for that?
No, sir.
Okay. Was she required to?
Yes, sir.
You are her immediate supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With respect to the second incident, which is the incident that we talked about where she left for 2 hours, did she ever at any time seek permission for that before she took the 2 hours off?
No, sir.
Okay. And is it your understanding that she talked to an acting lieutenant from another station prior to her taking that time off? Already testified to that. Okay, I'm sorry.
What, was that an objection, sir?
Leading and hearsay?
Overruled.
Did Lieutenant Guerra contact anyone about leaving for the 2 hours?
Speculation, also speculation or hearsay,
Again,
lack of
he's
personal knowledge.
already testified to all this.
Ask and answer.
I'll allow that.
Did she communicate with somebody
I'm
else?
sorry.
We get a ruling, overruled.
Overruled.
Thank you.
Okay. Regarding the second incident, did she ever contact you either by phone, text, or email to let you know before she left that she was leaving?
No, sir.
Okay. Prior to the meeting that you had with her on August 5th, did she at any time tell you the reasons why she left for those 2 hours?
No, sir.
Pass the witness.
Nothing further.
Let's go ahead and call the next witness.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
And if you can go ahead and step out. Yes. Oh, okay. No problem.
Do we have a mic for both?
It's overruled.
Okay. The city calls Fire Chief Pilar Rodriguez. Morning, sir. Can you please state your name and your rank for the record?
My name is Pilar Rodriguez. I'm the fire chief for the Pharr Fire Department.
How long have you been the fire chief, sir?
Approximately 7 months.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is how long have you been the fire chief here, sir?
I've been the fire chief approximately 7 months.
Sir, I'm going to ask you some questions. I know you've been sitting here, but I'm going to ask you questions regarding your discipline of Lieutenant Crystal Guerra on July 21st, 2021.
Yes, sir.
Regarding those incidents. And for purposes of clarity, were you the fire chief on July 21st, 2021?
I was not the fire chief on July 21st, 2021.
Okay. What date, do you recall the exact date that you became the fire chief?
I became fire chief on July 24th, 2021.
How did you become aware of these incidents on July 21st, 2021?
The prior chief, Leonardo Perez, brought it to my attention.
We've discussed here today a meeting that took place on or about August 5th, 2021. You've heard the testimony about that?
Yes,
Okay. Were you present at that meeting?
I was present.
And who else was present at that meeting?
Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas and Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe.
And what was the purpose of that meeting on August 5th, 2021?
The purpose of that meeting was to interview Lieutenant Crystal Guerra to determine why she had exchanged time on July 21st, 2021, in violation of a written directive issued to her by Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe, and to ascertain why she was absent from her workplace between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. on the same date
Okay.
without authorization.
I'm going to refer to the first incident, the exchange of time the exchange of time as the first incident, okay? So with regards to the first incident, what did Lieutenant Guerra tell you?
That she simply forgot and did not, that she was not supposed to exchange time.
So Lieutenant Guerra admitted to you that she was not supposed to exchange time?
Yes, she did.
Was there any discussion about the email that went out?
Yes, there was.
Okay,
And she acknowledged she had received the email.
okay. Can you turn to Exhibit F, please? Okay, so this appears to be an email. Is this the email that you're referring to?
Yes, it is.
And have you looked at this email before?
Yes, I have.
And does Deputy Chief Arispe have the authority to draft this email and to order personnel to show up early for purposes of turning in their PPE gear?
He does have the authority.
With regards to the second incident on August 5th, 2021, okay, with the meeting on August 5th, 2021, with regards to the second incident, what did Lieutenant Guerra tell you, if anything?
On the second incident, she indicated that she had an emergency, and that was the reason why she had left the workplace.
Did Lieutenant Guerra deny being out for those 2 hours?
She did not.
Did Lieutenant Guerra deny that she did not inform her immediate supervisor that she was leaving the station?
She did not.
Did she give you any excuse whatsoever regarding, who she might have talked to when she left?
The only indication that she gave me that she talked to her crew and the acting lieutenant at Station 4, Carlos Cabello.
Okay. So she told you that she talked to the acting lieutenant at Station 4. Is that not enough?
No,
Okay. And just so I can better understand this, so Lieutenant Guerra is the lieutenant of what station?
Fire Station number 3.
And Fire Station number 3 has a jurisdiction that they're responsible for?
That is correct.
And are there the other stations, they have their own jurisdictions that they're responsible for?
Yes, they do. We refer to them as districts.
Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, okay? So with regard to station number 4, is that the same district as station number 3, or is that a different district?
It is a different district.
They have their own responsibilities with respect to their own district.
That is correct.
Now, does the district that Station 4 is responsible for, does that border Station 3's district?
It does.
Okay. Are there any other districts that border Station 3's district?
Yes, District 2 or Station 2 borders Station 3, District 3.
Who has the authority to make the call for one station covering another station's district?
It's the supervisor for the lieutenants,
Okay, in this case, who would that be?
Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe.
Now, why is this important? Why can't a lieutenant just call another, well, in this case, acting lieutenant from another station and say, hey, I need you to take over my district?
Because the remaining districts are not aware of that. And a lot of times the response needs to be coordinated. And of course, you have the immediate supervisor that's in charge of the overall shift. So he's responsible for supervising the various lieutenants, which in case we have, this particular case, we have 4 lieutenants on duty at any given time.
Is it a big deal that Station 3 was down a lieutenant and another lieutenant from another station was asked to cover?
It is a big deal when no one is notified that has occurred.
Okay. And if the proper person was notified, in this case, Deputy Chief Arispe, what might he have done to help cover this scenario?
He could have elevated a lower rank to acting lieutenant. He could have called in overtime lieutenant. He could have gone to the station himself and stood by until they were covered. Or he could have notified the rest of the lieutenants that they were short a lieutenant and they were going to need to pay particular attention to calls in that district.
And with respect to Deputy Chief of East Bay, is he confined to one specific jurisdiction?
He is not.
So does he take care of basically all the districts?
That is correct.
Is that why it might be important for him to know what's going on with the districts?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Okay. Could you please turn to Exhibit G? Have you ever seen this document?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And who drafted this document?
Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe.
And who is it addressed to?
It is addressed to me.
All right. And what is the subject line of this document?
It is Lieutenant Crystal Guerra's unapproved annual leave request and substitution of time request on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021.
And we've already gone through a lot of this with Deputy Chief, so I'm not going to take a lot more time on that. But did you utilize the information in this document to help you come to a decision with respect to Crystal Guerra's discipline?
I did.
Do you agree with Deputy Chief Arispe that she was supposed to contact her prior to trying to take any exchange of time?
Yes, I agree.
And again, with respect to the second incident, which was the leaving her duty station, was she required to contact her immediate supervisor, Deputy Chief Arispe?
Yes, she was.
Okay, let's go ahead and turn to Exhibit H, please.
I'm sorry, what exhibit, sir?
H.
Yeah, thank you.
H.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to briefly take us through these documents here. What is this first document that we're looking at?
This is a report that's an automated report that's generated by the time and attendance system, also known as Chronos.
Okay, and what is it saying here? What's this? It looks like there's two different entries here. What's that top one?
Right. The top one says that on July 21st, 2021 at 12:31 p.m., Crystal Guerra requested vacation leave on July the 21st, 2021 for 2 hours. And then there's a second entry, July 21st, 2021 at 9:33 a.m. that Crystal Guerra requested a substitution of time on July 21st, 2021 for 1 hour.
Okay. Let's start with the bottom one because that's earlier in time. So with regards to the bottom one, the 9:33 a.m. entry, again, in your investigation, what was your understanding of what time Crystal Guerra was supposed to be on shift on July 21st, 2021?
On July 21st, 2021, she was supposed to report to duty at 8:30 a.m.
Okay. And this says she reported to duty at what time?
Well, it says that she made an entry into the time and attendance system at 9:33 a.m.
Gotcha. And with the entry above that, again, this is an entry for vacation leave at, looks like 12:31 p.m. What is your understanding of when she actually left her station?
My understanding is that she left at 10:33 a.m. on July 21st, 2021, and returned at 12:30 July 21st, 2021.
Okay. If you could turn to the next page, please. All right. And what is this document that we're looking at?
Again, this is a report, an automated report that's generated by the time and attendance system, also known as Chronos, detailing whether requests for leave were approved or rejected.
Okay.
And on the first entry, which is the July 24th, July 20, let me see, this one was created on July, and this one, this one was created by the time and attendance clerk.
Okay.
And so this was created on July 24th, 2021 at 8:42 a.m. It references vacation leave and a total of 8 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
That particular entry is not an issue here for purposes of discipline, correct?
That's correct.
That's just on the document with the other ones?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's go to the one right underneath that. So the other two down there, are those with respect to these two incidents that we're here for today?
That is correct.
Okay, and just briefly, what are they saying?
So the one for, on July 21st, 2021 at 12:31, requesting vacation leave for a total of 2 hours. It says, no annual leave request form was turned in for the above request. If approved by you, as is already taken, I normally generate a form in order to close out payroll. And that's a note added by the time and attendance clerk.
Okay, and the one right underneath it?
Right, it says on July 21st, 2021 at 9:33 a.m. Substitution of time on July 21st, 2021 for 1 hour. Engineer Isaac advised that Lieutenant M. Garza had worked for Lieutenant K. Guerra for the above request.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, what page are you on?
We are on the second page under Exhibit H.
Thank
you. Sure. Okay, if you could turn the page, please.
Yes, sir.
And this says pay period schedule. So what is this? What are we looking at here?
This is actual, the payroll submittal submitted by the employee for their work period.
Okay, and does this document detail, or excuse me, with respect to the first incident, does this document detail the time that she showed up on that day on July 21st, 2021?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and what does that say?
It says, which I had a little bit of trouble reading it.
Pair of glasses.
Yeah, yeah, it says, there's 2 entries on July 21st, 2021. There's one, the first entry at the top of the column says she worked from 9:32 to 10:30 and then left, let me see. Oh, and also worked from 12:30 to 8. That's when she was actually on duty.
Okay,
And then the next entry, which is leave without pay, was from 9 to 9:30 and then 10:30 to 12:30.
okay. And then to the best of your ability, well, what is it saying down here under note?
It says note, submission denied on the following: 7/21/21, substitution of time and 1 hour, and then 7/21/21, 2 hours of annual leave from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. as per Chief Salinas and Chief Carlos Arispe.
Right. Okay, let's turn to the next page, please. Have you seen this document? Or I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And this says leave request at the top. So what's going on here with this document?
So this is the actual paper backup that has to be submitted for various leaves. In this particular case, this is an annual leave request that was submitted for July 21st, 2021 from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And typically with annual leave, you require prior approval. And this one is signed by Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas, and it's a disapproval of annual leave on that date.
Okay. Does the Assistant Chief have the authority to approve or disapprove this?
Yes, he does.
Let's turn to the next page, please.
Yes, sir. This is the leave request on July 21st, 2021 for 1 hour of substitution of time between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Is what it says here, but there's a note that the clock in was at 9:30 a.m. and it is signed by Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe, and it's disapproved.
Gotcha. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to ask you to turn to is Exhibit I, please. Okay, just briefly, what is this document? What's the purpose of this document?
The purpose of this document, it's titled Texas Government Code, Chapter 614, Notice of Complaint Investigation. And this is to notify the employee that there's been a complaint and that they're being investigated for that particular complaint. On this one, I issued it to Crystal Guerra on January 10th, 2022. Basically let her know that we were investigating. There was a complaint that she had taken leave without authorization, that she was being investigated for it.
Okay. Did this also include the exchange of time and also the annual leave?
It did. It included 2 incidents, one's for an exchange of time and one for annual leave.
Okay. Now, is this the actual charging instrument that charges her with 10 days of discipline?
No, this is not.
Do me a favor and turn to the second to last page of this particular document. It says page 5 at the top left corner.
Okay,
And it says respectfully, City of Pharr Fire Department has a signature there. Whose signature is that?
that is my signature.
And turn to the next page, please. Okay, and what's going on here with this page?
So this is just an acknowledgement that the employee received the notice of complaint. In this particular case, it's for Crystal Guerra, that she received it on the 10th of January at approximately 3:55 p.m. And it was issued to her on the same date at the same time by Acting Deputy Chief Pedro Bustamante.
Okay. Now, did you receive a written response to this by Lieutenant Guerra?
Yes, I did.
Let's go ahead and turn to the next exhibit, please, Exhibit J. Okay, have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell the commission how this document came in?
I received this document from Lieutenant Crystal Guerra's business email, her fire department issue email, and it was sent to me.
And do me a favor, I'm going to ask you about these documents, but can you also take a look at the next 2 pages
Yes.
and let me know if you've seen these documents before?
Yes, I have. They were attachments to her email that she submitted to me with her response.
So Crystal Guerra sent those documents to you along with this response?
She did. She sent these 3 pages.
Okay. All right, let's go back to this first page here of the response and let's go through this. Okay, so on number 1 here, it says on June 8th, 2021, Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe emailed all lieutenants as well as command staff advising of scheduled bunker gear pickup, cleaning and inspection. Recipients were advised that no exchange of time will be permitted during these dates. A copy of said email is attached to this written response. So this email, the next email, or excuse me, the next page, if you turn to it,
Yes, sir.
is this the email she's referencing that she attached here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And can you verify, is this the email? Is this the actual email? Is this the June 8th email that Deputy Chief Arispe sent to all the lieutenants?
It is.
Just the lack of personal knowledge, we already had Deputy Chief Arispe. This man has no knowledge of it, just like they said relevance. It's not relevant because he didn't do it. So same objection should be sustained.
So he can't testify to looking at this document?
Just like the other document, you know, you said it couldn't be because it wasn't relevant because he didn't prepare it. So
I think that's an entirely different objection, but
That's
I'll
the
leave it
objection.
up to, okay, I'll leave it up to the commission. I'm just asking him if he's seen this email before, if this is the email, it's his understanding that was sent by Deputy Chief Arispe.
that's a different question. I have no objection to that question.
Overruled.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so same question. Have you seen, or excuse me, is it your understanding this is the email that Deputy Chief Arispe had sent?
It is my understanding that this is the email Deputy Chief Arispe sent.
Okay, and let's just look at the attachment here that she has. And under B shift, what does it say with respect to when Crystal Guerra is supposed to show up on duty?
It says that on July 21st, 2021, the A shift is to report to duty at 8:30 a.m. to cover for B shift.
Okay, does this email also talk about whether they can exchange time?
Yes, it does. Below that, it says no exchange of time will be permitted during these dates.
Thank you. You can turn back to the response, please. Okay, so on this number 2 here, it says on July 21st, 2021, Lieutenant Mauro Garza agreed to work a sub of time for me for 30 minutes, 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Considering that the email from Chief Arispe had been sent 43 days prior, both Lieutenant Garza and I had forgotten about the events taking place, gear pickup and sub of times being brought to a halt that morning. Okay, so in here, she does mention Lieutenant Garza. So was Lieutenant Garza on duty for a period of time without his PPE gear?
Yes, he was.
And does she appear to you to be denying the fact that she showed up at 9:30?
She does not.
There's something else. If you go back to the second page here, please, the email. Okay, what if any significance is it here that she dropped off her gear on July 6, 2021?
So this was approximately 14 or 15 days prior to this, that she had gone through the same exercise where she was the off-going lieutenant and she was required to turn in her gear, and the oncoming lieutenant reported to duty at 8:30 a.m. To provide the coverage for that 30 minutes until she was officially off duty.
Okay. Now going back to the response, please. So back to this number 2 of the response. So, and again, it doesn't appear here that she's citing any particular law that allowed her or policy that allowed her to do this exchange of time, is she?
No,
Okay. Was this, I guess, excuse, if you want to call it that, persuasive about her getting the email 43 days prior?
it was not.
All right, and on this number 3 here, it says on July 21st, 2021, I clocked into work at 9:32 a.m. following a sub of time with Lieutenant Marlo Garza. Excuse me. Less than an hour later, I clocked out at 10:30 a.m. due to a family emergency and returned 2 hours later at 12:30 p.m. Okay, so is there anything in that sentence where she's denying actually leaving her duty station at 10:30 in the morning?
She is not.
Now, there's been some questions to Deputy Chief Arispe, which you've heard about the family emergency. With regards to the August 5th, 2021 meeting that took place, did she describe what this family emergency was?
She did not.
So going back to this here, it says both my crew as well as the lieutenant, acting lieutenant at the time from the adjacent station district were notified of my urgent need to leave. Okay. For purposes of clarity, are you disciplining her for not telling her crew about showing up 8:30 in the morning?
No, I'm not disciplining her for not telling her crew.
It says I proceeded to advise the acting lieutenant at Station 4 that my absence should take no longer than an hour or 2 and asked that Engine 4 back up my crew if there were any calls. Again, I know you testified to this earlier. Is this her call as a lieutenant? Does she have the authority to make this call, to call another station and say, I need you to cover for my station?
She does not.
Okay. Who would she need to go to in order to get authority like that?
The immediate supervisor, Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe.
Okay. Can Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe make that decision on his own? Does he have the authority?
Yes, he does.
And she says here, a screenshot of my Chronos punches will be attached to this written response. I guess I'm assuming that's the 3rd page here. This page was included with this document.
It is.
All right, let's go back to number 4 here. On August 5th, 2021, I participated in an interview with Chief Pilar Rodriguez, Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas, and Deputy Chief Carlos Arispe. So sounds like you both are all on the same page. You had an interview. Those people were there.
We did, and they were.
Okay. During this interview, I explained to the chiefs that my absence from the station was a result of me attending to a family emergency, and I had utilized my hours annual leave to accomplish that. What, to the best of your recollection, did she actually say with regards to an emergency on August 5th?
She did not describe a family emergency. She described that she left due to an emergency.
So on August 5th, 2021, did you know whether it was a family emergency?
I did not.
Is it your understanding, or excuse me, what is your understanding with regards to whether Deputy Chief Arispe had any idea that she was out due to a family emergency?
It is my understanding.
Calls for hearsay.
In your investigation, I
didn't hear. What was that?
Objection, calls for hearsay.
It's okay, I can restate the question. It's fine.
That's fine. It's the same.
In your investigation, and looking at the documents and the investigation that you did, what was your understanding with regards to whether she asked for permission from Deputy Chief Arispe either to be late in the morning or to take annual leave?
My understanding is that she did not request permission from Deputy Chief Arispe to be late, or to take annual leave, or to do a substitution of time.
Okay, and what is your understanding with respect to whether she communicated any type of family emergency situation?
My understanding is that she did not communicate that she had a family emergency on August the 5th, 2021.
Okay. All right, so let's keep going here on this number 4. Okay, we ended, it says, during this interview, I was asked by Deputy Chief Arispe if I thought it would be common courtesy for a lieutenant to notify the deputy chief, to which I agreed. Okay. In addition to, I don't really understand the common courtesy thing, but in addition to common courtesy, was she required to notify Deputy Chief Arispe?
She was required to notify Deputy Chief Arispe.
Okay. I mean, does it look to you like she's at least admitting that she's supposed to tell Deputy Chief Arispe?
Objection, calls for speculation. It's contrary to the document itself. We said common courtesy does not say it's in violation of an order, which if you look at the order, it clearly is.
You were talking really, really fast, but I'll restate my question here. So what is your understanding of what it is? how did you take this statement? What did you take it to mean from her?
It means that she understood that she was required to notify her immediate supervisor.
On some level, right? Like
On
maybe she didn't agree that there was a law or a policy in place, but on some level? Is that your
Yes,
understanding?
that's my understanding.
Okay. Let's keep going. It says, I was also asked by Chief Rodriguez if it was possible that while en route to my emergency, I could have picked up the phone and notified one of the chiefs, which I agreed was a possibility. Did that happen?
Yes, it did.
Okay, that
I mean-
statement took place? I'm sorry.
Yes, that statement took place.
Gotcha. Now, with regards to picking up the phone and notifying anybody, did she do that?
To my knowledge, she did not.
And to you, what's the significance of this, if any, about the fact that she was able to pick up the phone and call Deputy Chief Arispe?
That she was aware that she was required to notify her immediate supervisor. And should have picked up the phone or texted him or emailed him that she was needing to leave due to an emergency.
What, if any, significance is there with respect to her contacting a station lieutenant or having the time to contact a station lieutenant and not contacting Deputy Chief Arispe?
The station lieutenant is not her immediate supervisor. And if she had enough time to contact the station lieutenant, she could have contacted the immediate supervisor.
Okay. Let's go ahead and let's turn to Exhibit K, please. Okay, so briefly, what is the purpose of this document?
This is to notify Lieutenant Crystal Guerra that she is afforded a pre-disciplinary hearing in accordance with a collective bargaining agreement. And this document lays out the charges or the contemplated charges and the violations, and it schedules a date for the pre-disciplinary hearing.
Okay. So really quickly, again, for purposes of clarity, is this the document that actually charges Crystal Guerra with the 10 days discipline?
It is not.
Okay. So this is as you said, a requirement that you have to give her prior to any disciplinary action happening?
That is correct.
Is this document, or excuse me?
What is this document?
Okay, thank you, that's fine. Yeah, what is this document in relation to the procedure that needs to happen with respect to disciplining a firefighter?
This is a document that I am required to issue Crystal Guerra prior to issuing any discipline.
Thank you, sir. Can you turn to the second to last page of this document, please? It should say page 5 in the upper left-hand corner.
Page 5?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, it's a City of Pharr Fire Department, and there's a signature there. Whose signature is that?
That is my signature.
Okay. And sorry, I should have done this before, but can you turn back one page?
Oh,
And
yes.
for everybody's record, we're on page 4. It's the top left corner of page 4.
Right.
All right. The very bottom there's a section that says pre-disciplinary hearing. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What's going on there with that paragraph?
That is basically notifying her the authority or the right for a pre-disciplinary hearing, and it's scheduling the date and time for that.
Okay. And what is the date and time that pre-disciplinary hearing was scheduled for?
It was scheduled for January 14th, 2022 at 11 a.m.
Did you have any knowledge at the time where January 14th, 2022 fell with respect to 180 days?
Yes, that it was prior to the 180 days.
Okay, let's go ahead and turn to Exhibit L, please. Okay. This appears to be an email strand. The email at the bottom looks earlier in time, so I'd like to ask you about that. What's going on with that email?
The one on January 13th, 2022 at 4:13 p.m.
Yes, sir.
That is an email that I received from Lieutenant Crystal Guerra notifying me that she would like to reschedule the pre-disciplinary hearing. And she offered the date of January 20th and January 21st as dates to reset the pre-disciplinary hearing.
Okay. And did you accommodate her request to reset the pre-disciplinary hearing?
Yes, we did. We reset the pre-disciplinary hearing for January 21st. 2022.
Go ahead and turn to Exhibit M, please. Okay. And is this the email response that you gave to her regarding her request to change the time?
It is. And as I notified her that it's been rescheduled to Friday, January 21st, 2022 at 2 p.m. at the Fire Chief's Office, 118 South Cage, 3rd floor, Pharr, Texas.
And was January 21st, 2022 one of the dates that she requested that it be moved to?
It was.
Okay, so when the predisciplinary hearing was set, did you actually have a hearing? Was there, excuse me, strike that. Did a predisciplinary hearing take place between you and Crystal Guerra?
Yes.
Okay. And was that hearing recorded?
Yes, it was.
Commissioners, at this time, I do have an audio recording of that. It is 9.5 minutes long. I'm more than happy to play it. I can ask him. He can play it if he wants. I mean, I have no problem. I could just play it and we can just listen to it. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. We need to take a break right before we get that hearing. He needs to take a phone call. So if you don't mind, we're going to take a break right now.
That's fine. I'll have IT set it up. Thank you.
Okay, it's 11:39. We are going to restart this meeting. And last left off, we were going to hear a recording.
Yes, sir. Just a couple questions before we do that. Who are we going to hear in attendance at this hearing?
Crystal Guerra, and she was the one in attendance at the hearing.
Okay. Was there anybody else in the room?
Oh, yes, I was there. There was Acting Deputy Chief Pedro Bustamante, City Attorney Patricia Rigney, and our counsel, Rebecca Hayward. And then the Crystal's legal representation, Mr. Hull.
Okay, so he was there as well.
Yes, he was.
All right. Now, before we listen to this, did Crystal Guerra, in listening to her talk, did she deny any of the, or excuse me, did she deny that the first incident occurred?
He didn't.
I guess I can ask him the questions after he's done, but did she deny anything?
She did not.
Sustain.
All right. Let's go ahead and play the audio.
So we're ready to start? Okay. So let me take off my mask so that you can a little more. So the reason we're here is under Article 24 of the Collective Bargaining Agreement, Crystal. You're afforded a pre-disciplinary hearing. You have the notice of complaint that you were served with, and you also have, we have your response to that notice of complaint, and then you have the notice of contemplated discipline, and also your pre-disciplinary hearing notice. And so the reason we're here is that afford you an opportunity to provide us with any more information or facts that I should consider before I make my decision whether or not to discipline you and what level to discipline you at. So basically, the floor is yours to provide me with any additional information that you want me to consider.
Sure. I mean, by all means, please feel free to ask me any questions as far as like in reference to this matter. You know what I mean? Because like you said, I provided my response. So mind you, nothing's changed. It's the same answer, but like by all means, if there's a concern or a question that you may have in reference to what I put in my response, I mean, by all means, you know, ask me. Like I will answer.
So from my perspective, your answers were straightforward. So.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Like as far as the charges go, I mean, we can try to get into that as far as talking about the charges brought up against me and then my response on paper. I don't know if that's what y'all want to do.
No, well, so this is so that you can provide me with any other additional information you want me to consider before I make a decision.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my thing is as far as what exactly I'm being disciplined for. Obviously, it was on paper, right?
Yes.
In black and white. The issue I had with it though was it stated or it claimed to be based on factual grounds, but in fact they were not. Just the times provided on paper alone were inaccurate. They weren't correct. Because it said that I left at 9:30, when in fact, that's actually when I had clocked in that morning. I even provided a screenshot of my Chronos to corroborate that.
So what time did you leave?
What?
What time?
At
did-
10:30, at 10:30,
10:30.
yes, 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 yes. And I was gone for 2 hours on the dot. So I returned and clocked back in at 12:30.
Okay.
But as far as the events go for that day, it was just as simple as a family emergency rose up and I had to go immediately. So I went ahead, did my part, notified who needed to be notified, clocked out, and went on my way. And then, of course, once the emergency had been addressed, right back to work. And of course, I took the proper steps as far as logging it into Chronos, putting it on my timesheet, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's about it.
May I ask what the emergency was, Crystal?
Yeah, no, by all means, I have no problem with it. It's a sensitive topic and I don't usually talk about it. People in the department don't know. But my mom is a breast cancer survivor.
Okay.
So when it comes to her appointments, she gets very emotional and starts to get upset, and she can no longer function, so to speak, as far as I can't drive. I'm frozen. Help me, Crystal. And when that happens, I have to go because I don't know what's going to happen next. Because it's a matter of, is she just going to stop in traffic in the middle of traffic? Is she going to have a panic attack while behind the wheel? I don't know. And that's what it was. It was just going to my mom's aid, getting her to that appointment quickly, in and out of the appointment quickly, and then coming straight back to work.
Is there anything else you'd like me to consider?
The only thing I do ask is, I went over like the policies that were brought to my attention on paper and whatnot, and as far as maintaining communication and whatnot, I do understand that, I really do. However, just the first couple of words alone on that state cited policy was members on duty shall maintain communication. And, with all due respect, I clocked out. Technically speaking, I was off duty. And mind you, I didn't just leave unannounced or, spontaneously. I notified the individuals or the people that needed to know, which were my crew and the lieutenant in charge of staffing, which was in the adjacent district. But other than that, that's just about it. I remember the last time that we spoke, even Chief Arispe had mentioned, as far as, hey, Crystal, wouldn't it have been common courtesy for you to, call somebody? Which I wholeheartedly agreed with you. I was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yet my response to him as well was, please understand, considering the circumstances, the last thing on my mind at that given moment was, let me be courteous and call someone else aside from the people that I had already notified. That was the last thing on my mind. And I even told him too, I said, this wasn't done out of disrespect or malice. Please understand the emergency at hand. That's where my mind was at the time. Not necessarily on common courtesy.
But you did. But you did comply.
Oh, yeah, yes, of course. Yes, I did. But I, as far as maintaining communication, even though I was off duty, mind you, I was still reachable. I had my cell phone. There was no, as far as like, hey, she's not answering our calls. And I agree with you as far as, I know we spoke the last time during our meeting, communication works both ways. Yeah, absolutely it does. Because it could have even gone as far as, hey, Crystal left. She said it was a family emergency. She looked kind of distraught. Maybe I should reach out to her and see if there's anything okay, if there's anything we can do for her. You know what I mean? But aside from that, that's about it. The only other thing I do have an issue with is the charge of insubordination. I'm not really sure how or what that exactly pertains to. I didn't intentionally disobey any type of policy or order. But yeah, like I said, that's pretty much it here. The last thing I wanted was for any of this to be taken out of context or anything like that. This was a legitimate emergency that I that required my attendance, and that was it. That was it. And like I said, I even took the steps as far as clocking out, logging it down, putting in the timesheet, everything. I took all the proper steps just to make sure everything was covered.
Notified.
Yes, of course, the proper people were notified.
You said the proper people were notified? Who-
Yes, sir.
Who are the proper people?
My crew, of course, obviously. I went ahead and notified my crew, which I guess you could, as for the policy, you could say it's my office, so to speak, office staff. So I went ahead and notified my crew, and then of course I notified the lieutenant in the adjacent district, who is the lieutenant in charge of staffing. Just in case it were to trigger overtime or anything like that. I even told him should not even take me an hour to 2 hours. But yeah, it wasn't one of those like, hey, she's AWOL, or hey, she just took off on us. We have no idea where she went. No, the crew was notified, and the other lieutenant was notified as well. Yes, of course. And this was all done, I mind you, off duty and in my personal vehicle. This wasn't a quote unquote repeat offense or anything done on duty or in a unit or anything like that.
Anything else, Crystal?
No, not, that's about it. I mean, it's short, simple, and sweet. There's not a whole lot to it. Because if y'all have any questions for me, I mean, by all means, please do.
I don't have any further questions for you. I really just, this was again, an opportunity for you to just present more information or present more facts that you want me to consider.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, with that said, I think we're done unless you have more, anything else you want to add.
No, Chief, that's about, like I said, it was short, simple, and sweet. Like there was nothing, nothing too elaborate, nothing too out there. It was just, like I said, a matter of a family emergency. Utilized my leave to clock out, address that, and come right back.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate both of you coming in.
Okay,
Thank you.
Recording it?
Yes.
Okay, you can turn it off, please. Yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, Chief. So I want to start here with this, I guess one of her excuses, if you will, is that she took the proper steps in communicating to, the right people or something to that effect. What did you think about that, I guess, excuse with respect to her leaving her duty station?
I do not believe that was the proper steps of notification when a station officer needs to leave their duty station.
Okay, she also mentioned in there that she took the proper steps to clock out. So just real quick, and we've looked over a lot of documents, did she clock out for annual leave prior to leaving for the second incident?
She clocked out.
She clocked off duty, but did she put in the chrono system if she was taking annual leave for those 2 hours?
She did
before
not.
She left? Okay.
She did not.
Now, is it the responsibility of Lieutenant Guerra's superior officers or supervisors to check in with her to make sure they know where she's at all times?
No, it's not. It's her responsibility to check in with her supervisor, to let them know where she is, or especially if she's leaving the workplace.
With regards to her explanation for the emergency situation, I know it's a tender subject. I'm not going to go into the specifics of it, but was that the first time that you heard that explanation?
No, I heard it on August 5th, 2021 at the interview with Crystal Guerra.
Had you heard the full explanation that she gave you in this disciplinary hearing on August 5th, 2021?
I did not. The
Okay.
full explanation was at the January 21st, 2022 pre-disciplinary hearing.
Okay, she also referenced in her pre-disciplinary hearing the statements already made in her response. Did you take that to mean the response that she emailed you?
Yes, I would.
Okay. For purposes of clarity, Exhibit J specifically?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and turn to Exhibit O, please. Okay, what is this document?
This is the document where I ordered her a 10-day disciplinary suspension.
Okay, so is this the charging document, the reason we're here?
This is the charging document.
Let's go to the factual grounds of the proposed disciplinary action. In section 1, you refer to an email that went out on June 8th, 2021. Is that the email that we talked about earlier, Deputy Chief Ariste sent?
Yes, it is.
Okay, on number 2, regarding the first incident, have you heard anything or any response from Crystal Guerra, whether in writing or at a pre-disciplinary hearing, disputing the fact that she exchanged times with Lieutenant Mauro Garza on July 21st, 2021?
I have not received or heard anything that disputes that.
Did she in fact exchange time with Lieutenant Mauro Garza on July 21st, 2021?
Yes, she did.
With respect to section 3, I know she mentioned in her pre-disciplinary hearing that I think she stated the only factual dispute that she had at the hearing was a time issue, about a 9:30, 10:30 time issue. So with respect to section 3, when are you saying that she left her duty station for the second incident?
You're not allowed to change the document at all. Council well knows that they have to stick with what's there, not what was.
Absolutely not. That is an incorrect objection. I mean, because this is the charging document, not the other document.
This one says 10:30, so you can't change it.
Change what? I don't understand what you're talking about.
My objection.
I'm sorry, I don't know what your objection is, but that's okay.
It's not for you, but whatever.
Overrule.
Okay. Section, okay. So section 3 lists the time down there. What is the time that it says that she took off for those 2 hours?
At 10:30 a.m. on July 21st, 2021.
All right, turn the page, please. Okay, section number 4, talking about the meeting on August 5th, 2021. Is that the one that we've been talking about?
Yes, sir.
Is that the first meeting that you had with Lieutenant Guerra regarding this incident?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And again, have you heard anything from Lieutenant Guerra, whether in writing or pre-disciplinary hearing at any time, disputing the events that took place either on the first incident or the second incident?
I have not heard or received anything disputing those incidents.
Let's go down to section 5. It says, in your response to the notice of complaint, you stated that you simply forgot about the email directive from Chief Arispe and that only notifying one's crew and the officer, lieutenant in charge of Station 4 is common practice. Simply forgetting or assuming something is common practice is not an excuse for violation of policy in which you have been disciplined previously. So again, what, if any, consideration did you give with respect to that excuse? I forgot.
The level of discipline, the number of days of suspension.
Okay, section 6, you referred to something that she stated in her pre-disciplinary hearing, which I was a little confused on, something to the effect of she stated that she was off duty, the policy doesn't apply to her. Is there any merit to that in your opinion?
No, there's no merit, and actually the policy says that it applies both on and off duty.
And for purposes of clarity, strike that. Let's go to the next section. It says rules violations implicated by your conduct. Okay, what is this section for?
This are the actual violations of the rules under Chapter 143 of the Texas Local Government Code, and or policy, the Pharr Fire Department policy procedures, rules and regulations, and or City of Pharr policy manual.
Okay. So let's go through this first one here. It says City of Pharr, Texas Firefighter and Police Officer Civil Service Commission rules and regulations. So section 7, performance of conduct. And then there is there's some numbers there. It says 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and it's identifying some certain types of conduct there. Can you please tell the commission how she violated those particular conduct violations? Sure. I'm on O, and this is page 2. Page 2? Got it.
For number 3, active incompetence. She left without notifying her immediate supervisor and left her duty station unsupervised. For number 4, neglect of duty. Again, she failed to notify her supervisor that she was leaving her workstation, and also did not follow a directive regarding the prohibition of exchange of time. Number 6, acts showing lack of good moral character. She left the station and conducted the exchange of time knowing that she shouldn't have, that it was a violation of policy. Number 8, conduct prejudicial to good order. The fire department is required to be ready to respond at a moment's notice, and we must maintain order. And so there must be a supervisor in charge at all times, and there was not a supervisor in charge at that fire station, station number 3. And number 12 is violation of any applicable fire and police department rules or special orders, and that would be Pharr Fire Department Rule 100.14, 100.15, and 100.33.
Okay. Let's turn to the next page, please. And I think you already answered, it says Rule 27, 30, and 32. So we're going to skip down here to Pharr Fire Rescue Policies and Procedures, Rules and Regulations. Do you see where it says that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I think you just referenced one of these. You said 100.14, Responsibilities of Officers. Okay, and so again, I realize that some of these cross over, but if you could briefly describe how she violated these particular rules of conduct.
Well, A, 100.14, A is she's required to perform the duties and accept the responsibilities and have the authority of the rank which they are occupying. In this particular case, she's a permanent appointment, and so she didn't fulfill her duties. B is enforce the policies, rules, and regulations and standard operating procedures of the fire department, and she did not do that. She actually violated those rules, regulations, policies, and procedures. K, as applicable, respond to all orders, directives, and other information applying to the operation of the command, and she did not follow a directive that was issued to her regarding exchange of time. X, keep the immediate supervisor informed of their activities and their location when away from their assigned station. And she did not advise her immediate supervisor that she was away from her assigned station.
Okay, next page, please.
This is manual page 100.15, knowledge of the rules. It says the member of the department shall read and become familiar with the rules and regulations related to the department, including any updates and or amended policies. No plea of ignorance of the rule or regulations will be accepted as an excuse for any violation of such. And so she was not familiar with the rules and regulations because she violated them. And then she also indicated to me that she was not aware of the exact rule or regulation she had violated.
Okay, and for purposes of that, what you're talking about under this rule, does that matter that she didn't know?
Yes, it does, because she's required to know.
Right. Okay, and then we have obedience to orders, again, just briefly.
Yeah, so obedience to orders, members shall be governed by, well, I'm going to skip to the second sentences. Violation by any member of the department of any of these rules of conduct may be considered sufficient cause for dismissal, demotion, suspension, or other disciplinary action. And so she didn't basically follow the rules for the department.
And then how does this next one, remaining on duty until properly relieved, apply?
Well, she did not notify her immediate supervisor who could have relieved her of duty due to the emergency. And so she did not remain on duty until she was relieved by a superior officer.
And at the time this incident occurred, did her immediate supervisor even know about an emergency?
Her immediate supervisor did not know about the emergency.
Maintaining communications.
Right. And so it says that members, when on duty, or when officially on call, may be directly available by normal communications, or shall keep their office, headquarters, or superior officer informed of the means by which they may be reached when not immediately available. And so in this particular case, she did not notify her superior officer, and did not give him the means which she could be reached, because she was not immediately available when she left duty.
Okay, with respect to the next section, it's the City of Pharr, Texas Personnel Policy Manual. So this manual also applies to firefighters,
It does.
and it looks like some of these are,
They're repetitive.
right, in addition. So these are multiple violations under different policy manuals.
It is.
Okay, so the next page, please. Says finding of just cause and disciplinary consideration. Okay, what's the purpose of this section?
To notify them that whether or not the charges have merit and are truthful and are cause for disciplinary action.
Okay. And in this particular circumstance, did you take into account any previous discipline that Lieutenant Guerra has received?
I do.
And what did you take into consideration with respect to that?
I had taken into consideration that she had previously served a 5-day suspension for basically leaving her workstation without notifying her immediate supervisor.
Okay, and at the time, just to be clear, at the time of that discipline, were you the fire chief?
I was not.
So this discipline now, is it your contention that it is based on the same reasons as the previous 5-day discipline?
It is my.
Objection 18.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear now what your question was again on that. I just want to make sure that,
What is
yeah,
your
restate it,
opinion?
please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. What is your opinion with regards to the discipline that she received and the discipline that you gave her, or excuse me, that she received in the past and the discipline that you gave her for these incidents with them? What is your opinion on them and any connection between those?
That they're basically the same violations, a repeat of the same violation.
Okay. And you disciplined Lieutenant Guerra for how many days for these 2 incidents?
Or 10 calendar days.
Okay, and what are you asking the commission to do here today?
I'm asking the commission to uphold the 10 calendar day disciplinary suspension.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Hey, Chief, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
I guess it's good afternoon now.
Yes, sir.
If you go ahead and turn to F,
Yes.
that's that email. And Lieutenant Guerra admitted receiving the email, correct?
Yes.
He admitted receiving it and basically forgetting about one of the things, correct?
Yes, you did.
And in fact, you found out that, who was it, the other one that forgot about it too? That was Lieutenant Garza?
Mauro Garza.
That Lieutenant Garza?
Lieutenant, yes, sir.
Okay. How many lieutenants are there? 4 divisions?
There are 14 lieutenants, 12 of them are in suppression and 2 are in the prevention division.
And did that concern you, that the fact that this email was sent out some 42 days earlier and that Mr. Arispe didn't follow up and make sure everybody was aware of it? When you have at least two lieutenants that completely forgot about it?
No, it doesn't concern me, because there had been activity prior to this date regarding the subject matter of this, and the lieutenants should have been aware of what was going on.
Shouldn't common courtesy, like you used the word, couldn't, to remind them, hey, don't forget this is coming up in next week, maybe even a month in advance instead of 42 days. Don't you think that would just be common courtesy and good leadership?
Well, that's why it was given in writing, because
No, that's not my question. It was obviously given in writing some 42 days before the event. Have you never forgotten anything 42 days later? Like, can you remember what you did 42 days ago?
probably have a good idea. Yes, sir.
Okay, what emails did you get 42 days ago?
Protection, relevance.
Bottom line here
Christine.
is, you don't think it would have made good practice to follow up and say, don't forget, this is what we got coming up next week? That would have been good practice, wouldn't it?
It was issued in writing. It was in the lieutenant's email, and she could have made reference to it.
And never
Anytime.
denied it, did she?
Right.
But my question was a little different. Wouldn't it have been good practice to go ahead and send a reminder email to everybody instead of saying, hey, remember what we sent you 42 days ago?
It's not required.
I didn't ask if it was required. I was asking if it was good practice and whether that's something you would have expected Mr. Orespi to do.
No, I wouldn't have expected him to do.
All right. Now, it says on that letter, it says no exchange of time will be permitted during these dates, correct?
That's correct.
So I assume that exchange of time is normally permitted.
Yes, with prior approval.
Okay. Where does it say that? Give me the rule.
I can't quote the actual manual page off the top of my head, but requires prior approval.
Well, as we all know, ignorance of the rules is not an excuse. So
Right.
tell me what the rule is.
Section argumentative.
Give me the rule.
It would fall under,
Tell me where you're looking, Chief.
I'm looking at page 3 of the disciplinary action. And basically it refers to, all the other rules in the department.
Which rule specifically? I'm on page
I'm
3.
sorry, 100.14.
Responsibility of officers?
Yes, responsibility of officers.
Okay.
Okay, and so there is a rule in the manual.
Where is it?
I cannot quote it right now, the actual manual page and number. But I'm aware of a rule where annual leave and substitution of time requires prior approval.
By whom? Does it say specifically whom?
It says the fire chief.
Fire chief.
Yes.
So anybody that exchanges time, they always don't go to Orespi, they have to go to you.
No, sir. The fire chief has delegated that to the assistant chief or the deputy chiefs.
Does it say that in the rule that you have the authority to delegate it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. You're going to find that rule for me?
Sure.
Okay.
Objection, relevance. This is all speculation as well. This didn't happen in
And,
this
well, I'm just saying at the time of the next hearing,
Well, he
you'll have it.
doesn't, I'm sure you're.
Now,
gonna
with
come
respect
back
to,
I
excuse me,
understand.
with respect to the, as long as we're on that subject, emergency leave, tell me what rules specifically deal with emergency leave?
So there's no rule that deals with emergency leave. Emergency leave does not exist. There's only sick leave, there's annual leave, there's bereavement, and I believe one other, trying to think another leave, but emergency leave does not exist.
I understand that. And you heard your assistant chief say that he's taken emergency leave anywhere from 1 to 100 times. Are you going to discipline him for taking
Objection,
leave that's not allowed?
mischaracterization of the witness's testimony
No,
and relevance.
Sustained.
Okay, if it doesn't exist, have you ever taken emergency leave?
I have not.
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Have any of your subordinates taken emergency leave?
No, they've taken annual leave. Emergency leave doesn't exist. Emergency is a reason to be off, but we do not have an emergency leave classification.
So you disagree with the testimony of the previous witness?
Objection, relevance, mischaracterization of
The
testimony.
previous witness was testifying. If he disagrees with,
Sustained.
so was Deputy Chief Arispe wrong
About,
about emergency leave?
no, emergency leave is a reason to be off, but it's not a leave in the policy.
And when you have emergency leave, sometimes you don't know how long you're going to be off, do you?
Right, correct.
So you can't put in a leave request in advance for X days if you don't know, can you?
No, but you can notify your immediate supervisor
Sure.
that you'll be out until.
You've got to
further
follow
notice.
the communications.
Sorry, can you let him finish your answer, please?
Certainly, apologize.
Thank you.
Yes, and you must notify your supervisor that you'll be out, whether for a short period of time or an extended period of time.
Where's that rule? Where's that rule?
That's one of the rules right now that we just quoted, 100, where you will, 100.33, maintaining communication.
Okay, let's look at that rule because that seems to be the crucial rule here, correct?
Yep.
And 100.3, maintain members on duty, and even when you're on leave, you're on duty, right?
When you're on leave, you're on duty.
If you take leave, you're on duty.
You're not at work, but you're being compensated.
That's not my question. Does this apply like when you're, let's say you take a vacation, you take 2 weeks leave, you have to be completely on call all the time, right?
No, you do not.
Okay, so then does it only apply when you're on duty?
No, it does not. Actually, probably 100.14 would be more appropriate.
Well, we're on 100.33, the one you directed me
Right.
to. And it says members on duty. So would somebody on leave be on duty?
They could be on duty and then leave during their normally scheduled shift.
Okay, so, but anyway, when officially on call, okay, it says shall be directly available by normal communication. Would that be a cell phone?
Or radio.
Okay, and were you aware that she testified or she told you during their meeting that she was available by phone or by regular communication, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay, that's all it requires, isn't it?
No,
Let's look at 100.33.
Okay.
We're talking about that one.
Right.
It says be directly available by normal communication, or, and that's in the disjunctive, isn't it?
Right.
That's not saying and. It says, or shall keep their office, headquarters, or superior officers informed. And again, that even talks about their office, which would be her crew, right?
I do not agree with that.
What would her office be?
She does not have an office.
Okay, headquarters or superior officer, but those are all in the disjunctive as well, aren't they?
No,
Or instead of and.
I do not agree.
You do agree they say or and don't say and?
Yeah, they say or.
Objection to the characterization of
Okay.
and or. I'm entirely confused by the question.
What, did you understand the question? You know the difference between or and, don't you?
Yes.
Objection
Okay,
relevance.
you can get fries or you can get a hot pocket, okay? It doesn't mean you get them both, right? You can have one or the other.
Objection relevance.
Sustained,
It's relevant, may I be,
sustained, and I need you to go ahead and allow him to answer, sir.
I apologize.
Thank you.
But can I be heard on the objection?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's very relevant because this says or, not and whether his understanding of it is correct or not is very pertinent. Because she did comply with it. Members on duty shall be available by normal communication.
That's your testimony. She hasn't testified.
Anyway, that's why it's important to know the difference between or and. So may I continue with the witness?
Objection relevance.
Sustained.
Okay. You said that, and again, you will agree that there's no and in there, correct?
There's no and in that section.
Okay. And you would agree that members on duty, even if they're on leave, shall be directly available by normal communication?
That's what the policy reads.
Okay. And she was available by normal communication?
She testified that she was, yes.
And you have no information that she wasn't?
No, I do not.
Okay. Now, you said we should really look at 100.14, correct?
Yes.
Let's look at that. Okay, where does that talk about communication?
So under X, section X,
Uh-huh.
says keep immediate supervisors informed of their activity and location when away from their assigned stations.
All right. And who would her immediate supervisor be?
Carlos Arispe.
All right. Are you aware of who she did contact?
Yes, she contacted her staff or the firefighters that she supervises, and she contacted Lieutenant or Acting Lieutenant Carlos Cabello at station number 4.
And what was his position? Was he in charge of staffing at that time?
No, he's not in charge of staffing.
Are you sure about that?
I'm sure.
Okay. And when you say that when she left the station without a lieutenant, isn't there some provision that somebody is acting lieutenant as soon as she's gone?
There's a provision, but because nobody knew she was gone, we could not invoke that. Nobody in authority could invoke that provision.
All right. What's that section?
The acting lieutenant,
Yes, sir.
I can't quote it right now.
All right. So let's go back to where we were originally. And so there is a provision where there can be exchange as shown in the email, right?
Yes.
All right. Now let's look at, I think the next exhibit we were looking at was Exhibit G. Can you pull that up?
Yes.
And did you were part of this, you received this and had this with you on August the 5th, correct?
I did not.
When did he prepare this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Okay, just so we're
Yes.
clear, so we're talking
Yes.
about the same one. And again, we have to talk one at a time, so just kind of hold it there. But Exhibit G is what I'm referring to.
Yes, Exhibit G. Yes, I had already received this report from Deputy Chief Arispe.
And when you met with her on August 5th?
I did not have it with me, but I had already received this and read this.
Okay. And at that time, you said she came in and gave her explanation, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And were you aware of whether it was recorded or not?
It was not recorded.
Okay. And with respect to her explanation, you said she never told us what the emergency leave was for, correct?
That's correct.
But you didn't ask her either, did you?
No, I asked her why she had clocked out at 10:30 and returned at 12:30, and she indicated I had an emergency.
Right. And did you ask her at that time what the emergency was?
I asked her why she had left at 10:30 and why she had returned at 12:30, and she said she had an emergency.
Okay, I think you said that twice now. Now the question is, did you ask her what the emergency was?
I did not.
Objection
Okay,
asked
there
and
was
answered.
nothing to,
Sustained.
it wasn't answered.
He gave you the answer twice, you just don't like it.
The answer was, no, he finally gave me the answer, no, he didn't ask. And the reason you didn't ask was why?
Because that she indicated she had an emergency, and that was her response.
Yet when you had the meeting with her later, you did ask, didn't you?
Yes, I did, because she brought it up.
No, you specifically asked, may I ask what that emergency was? Do
Right,
you remember that?
because-
We just heard the video, the tape.
Yeah, and
Okay.
she stated that she had an emergency, and I asked, what was that emergency?
And you could have done the same thing at the meeting on the 5th, couldn't you?
I could have.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Any reason you didn't?
No, she stated she had an emergency.
So what happened between August 5th and January that you didn't bring her up on charges?
Just pointed, like I've explained, I've been the fire chief for approximately 7 months. And so I was in transition, learning the operation, getting familiar with the facilities, the equipment, the personnel, the policies, the procedures. There's been quite a few incidents. And so I've been trying to get very familiar with the duties and responsibilities of the fire chief during that period. And so I was very busy.
And so you didn't already know what your duties were and your responsibilities and what you were supposed to do? You were learning on the job?
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there any legitimate reason why you waited 7 months? Or 5 months, excuse me?
Because I
Objection
was,
argumentative. Legitimate?
Go ahead.
I was very busy transitioning to the fire chief's position.
And you've been there for 7 months, you said?
7 months.
So at the time you interviewed her on August 5th, were you the chief then?
Yes, sir, for approximately 9 days.
So you were?
Yes.
Okay. And as the chief, you knew it was your responsibility to promptly discipline people because the sooner you do the discipline, the more effective it is, correct? That's something
Objection.
you know, correct?
Objection argumentative. Relevance.
Sustained.
Well, are you familiar with anything that says you're supposed to put off disciplining somebody if you found that there was a problem?
No, there's not. All I do know is that Chapter 143 of the Local Government Code allows you up to 180 days to administer discipline.
Right. And in fact, this was more than 180 days when you administered the discipline, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. When did you actually sign it? Let's look at Exhibit O. You've got your order there, and it's dated the 24th. But do you know when you actually signed it?
I signed it on the 24th.
You don't remember asking Lieutenant Guerra to come in there and try to, talk her out of, going with an appeal and just saying, look, I'll hold it off until tomorrow, and then you both signed it on the 25th?
I'm going to object to this. You're
That ring a bell?
testifying. Counselor, you're testifying.
It's a question.
You're testifying. You're injecting
Sustained.
testimony into the record.
No, I'll ask the question.
Please ask a question, sir.
I did. Do you remember telling Miss Guerra, Lieutenant Guerra, that just think about it overnight and we'll sign it tomorrow, whichever one you want? Do you remember that?
I remember asking Ms. Guerra if she wanted more time to consider the discipline and the option I had given her, and she asked for more time.
Okay. And then did you actually sign them on the 25th when she came back?
Yes.
Okay.
I know I signed it the 24th, and then when I issued it to her, it was on the 25th, and I signed the notice or the receipt giving it to her, and I initialed it that was issued to her on the 25th.
Okay. Well, she couldn't have changed her mind at all then. Once you signed it on the 24th, it was effective that day, wasn't it? Once you sign it, it's effective. She couldn't get the other option. You never gave her the option.
I did give her the option.
Not
And
if you already signed this.
I didn't issue it to her until the 25th.
It doesn't matter if you issued it or not. This is what was, when it's signed is what matters, doesn't it?
Right.
Okay. So she never had the option to even consider taking a less sanction and not appealing, correct?
I offered her.
Offered it after it was already signed and you had already agreed that she was going to be suspended for 10 calendar days.
I had not issued her that document.
I'm not talking about issuing it. When it's signed, correct?
I had not issued it to the employee.
Okay, but I do have your confirmation that it was signed on the 24th, correct?
Yes, it was.
Objection,
Okay.
relevance. I'm going to object this entire line of questioning. You're switching dates and you're asking things. I don't even think the witness is understanding what you're asking.
Have you been confused about my question?
Sustained.
Have you been confused? We're
No,
just talking about when you signed the January 24th letter, and you made it very clear that you signed it on January 24th, correct?
I did. I signed it on 24th because I
Okay.
was going to issue it to Lieutenant Guerra, and she asked for more time.
Right, but it was already signed.
It was.
Okay. And you did give her another option at that time. You said that if you want, you could take less suspension, but to give up your right to appeal, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And but is that required to do that?
No, it's an option. It's an option afforded.
It's not required
What's required? I
to
don't
give
know.
her an option by the rules that you're familiar with, are supposed to be familiar with.
No, it's
Objection argumentative.
not required.
Okay. At any rate, you're no doubt that you signed it on January 24th, correct?
I did.
Objection
Okay.
asked and answered.
Now, with respect to the, that particular document, you indicate on page 2 of that, and we'll go through this in a little more detail, but you said you also acknowledged during the meeting of August 5th. Do you see that?
Is that number 4 that you're?
Yes, sir. It says, down there, it says, you also acknowledge that there is a department policy, procedure, rule, or regulation that requires you to notify your immediate supervisor. You're swearing under oath that that's what she said during that meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And you're not aware that there's a recording?
I'm aware that I'm not aware that there's a recording.
Okay. And what if the recording shows that she never said that? Would you be questioning your own recollection?
No, I wouldn't, because I asked her that question myself. I asked her that question myself, so.
All righty. And you also said, additionally, you acknowledge you violated the directive prohibiting the exchange of times on July 21st, 2021, correct?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. I'm looking at the next sentence. Additionally, you also acknowledge that you violated the directive prohibiting the exchange of time on July 21st, 2021, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So why in the back of this did you say one of the reasons you gave her 10 days suspension was her lack of acceptance of responsibility?
Because she acknowledged, it's one thing to admit she did it. She did not accept responsibility. She gave no indication that she was remorseful or that it would not happen again. She had readily admitted that she violated the policy, but she did not accept responsibility.
That's what you meant?
Yes.
Okay. What about the 10 days? What was that supposed to be from? 10 calendar days, right? From
Right.
when to when?
That one was, it's listed in here, and
February 4th to February 16th?
yes, but she actually only served it to the 13th.
I'm asking about what your letter said.
Yeah,
Your
the
letter,
letter,
excuse me. Your letter said February 4th to February 16th. That's more than 10 calendar days.
that is correct.
Okay. So in actuality, you imposed a sanction greater than what you said you were going to impose, correct?
Objection, mischaracterization of his
A
testimony.
suspension, correct?
No, she did not serve.
Sustained.
She did not serve more than 10 calendar days.
I'm just saying what the order says.
Yes, the order said more, but in actuality, we notified her that her suspension was only 10 calendar days, and she actually only served 10 calendar days. And she acknowledged that she served the 10 calendar days in
There's
writing.
no question. Thank you. Now, let's talk about the actual things that you say she violated. So let's go back to the first page of your thing on factual grounds of proposed disciplinary action.
Are we in O again?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
The one you signed on January 24th, 2022.
okay.
On June 8th, they emailed you a notification that you were deported 8:30 and no exchange of time would be permitted. And you acknowledged in your response that you received this email, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so she acknowledged it. On July 21st, you exchanged time with Mato Garza, correct?
Correct.
And he got reprimanded for that, for forgetting as well?
Yes,
And what did he get?
he got a written reprimand.
And so if she did the same thing, wouldn't that be an appropriate punishment for her?
No, she did not do the same thing.
Okay, did she exchange time on that date, July 21st, without acknowledging it?
She did, and she also left the workplace without notifying her immediate supervisor, which Lieutenant Mauro Garza did not do.
Yeah, well, I understand that. But again, we're talking about if it were just that, then she would have gotten a written reprimand, right? You agree that that would be appropriate?
That would be appropriate, yes.
Okay, but because she took emergency leave and didn't cross all her Ts and dot all her Is, then you tacked on 10 days, correct?
She took annual leave for an emergency and did not notify her immediate supervisor.
Okay. Well, her immediate supervisor called it emergency leave.
Right.
Okay, And that's, you know, that's who you get your information from, is your immediate supervisor. He's taken emergency leave. You heard that testimony, correct?
Right. But if you, there's no emergency leave.
There's no policy and procedure for how to do it, is there?
No, there's just annual leave.
There's no policy or procedure for how to do emergency leave,
Objection,
is
these
there?
questions have been asked and answered a number of times.
Sustained.
You know, at some point, you may have to answer the questions. So,
He's already answered your question
no,
about
I
emergency
don't mean
leave.
here with the rubber stamp sustained. Let me ask you this.
You're
With
threatening him.
respect to emergency leave, how many people in that department do you think have taken emergency leave or have called it emergency leave?
I don't have that
Objection,
number.
speculation,
sorry?
relevance.
I don't have that number.
Well, you do know that your assistant chief did, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be surprised to find out everybody practically there has taken emergency leave at some time or another?
I wouldn't.
Speculation.
Sustained.
All right. Do you think that you need to set out some kind of memo to everybody to let them know there is no emergency leave? You've been there 7 months and you haven't done that, have you?
I have not issued a memo.
Well, do you think you should?
Well, we already have policies that are in place that address it.
But your very deputy fire chief says there's emergency leave. He seems to not know it.
What I think is happening is that emergency leave is, they're really using it synonymously with, I'm leaving due to an emergency.
Okay. And he indicated that if she had called him, he would have said, go, go, go. No problem, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And because she was in an emergency situation and just notified the people she thought were necessary, you're saying that's worth 10 days, right?
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure, I'd be happy to. You heard him say that when she said, if she had called him and said, oh, look, I've got this emergency I need to go forward and handle, he would have said, sure, fine, take off.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, when people claim that they have emergency leave or what you call leave based on emergency, do you ask them what it is? Did you ask them what the emergency is?
Typically, I have not asked anybody with the exception of Crystal.
Well, other than, in other words, in all the employees you've had that want a leave on the basis of emergency, you've never asked anybody else before what the emergency was, have you?
I have not at the fire department.
Now, since you've been chief, have people asked for emergency leave?
Not that I'm aware of.
What about your deputy chief? With his wife and the cancer and all that?
Objection, relevance, and I'm going to object again
Sustained.
to this line of questioning about emergency leave.
Well,
Sustained also.
yeah, you understand he called.
Let's go move on to a different topic.
I don't want to move on to a different topic. Shut me down if you want.
You've been
I'm
asked
not
to, sir.
moving on.
Well, I'm gonna ask you to.
I'm not. So with respect to, because emergency, this is the key crucial thing here. I mean, this is you already agreed that if she had only violated the first one, that'd be a letter of reprimand. But because she did this one on emergency leave where there's no policy and procedure, no rules or regulations, and the one she was supposed to call said, I would have given it to her in a minute if she'd said called. You're claiming that there's no emergency leave, correct?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Relevance.
And so have you done anything to let your assistant fire chief know there's no emergency leave?
The assistant fire chief and the deputy fire chief have not taken emergency leave under my tenure.
Well, of course they couldn't because there's no such thing, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Okay, so I'll take that as your statement. They have not taken emergency leave under your tenure, correct?
Correct.
All right. So you do acknowledge there is such a thing as emergency leave.
There is not emergency leave.
All right. With respect to the requirements for leave in an emergency situation, has there ever been a situation where you could understand that because of the emergency, they don't have time to notify anybody?
Not in this, not as a lieutenant working for a fire department.
Okay. So they should at least notify their crew, right?
No, they should at least notify their immediate supervisor.
And what if he wasn't available?
Then they should follow the chain of command and notify the next person.
Who would have been who?
It would have been Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas. Jacob Salinas.
Okay.
And there was also Deputy Chief Manuel Renta.
Did you take into consideration that her immediate supervisor said he would have given her the leave in a heartbeat?
If he had,
Take that in consideration when you came up with the 10-day suspension.
no, I did not,
Okay. And why not?
because she violated the policy, regardless of the reason, she did not notify her immediate supervisor.
And you don't take extenuating circumstances into consideration, right?
I don't, that's not extenuating circumstances. She was able to notify her crew and notify somebody who was not her immediate supervisor.
Wasn't it
It's
important
my,
to let her crew know?
Please let him answer the question.
and it's my opinion that she could have notified her immediate supervisor. So there was no extenuating circumstance not to notify. If she took the time to notify her crew, notify somebody that was not her immediate supervisor, she had the time to notify her immediate supervisor.
And if she'd notified him, he would have granted it.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's worth 10 days of suspension.
No, the violation of not notifying him,
Okay.
and also that it's a repeat offense.
Okay, let's talk about repeat offense. When has she ever clocked out on emergency leave before? Ever?
I'm sure she has, but I'm not under my tenure. This is the only one.
First of all, she can't. There is no emergency leave, right? Okay. When has she ever taken leave without checking with her supervisor before?
I would have to go back and check.
But
she
you
would-
said this is a repeat offense.
Yeah, she was suspended for 5 days for the violation.
Tell me
and
what that suspension was for.
That suspension was for leaving her assigned station
On the clock.
on the clock
Yeah.
and going to another station, and then not responding to a call. There was a call for her.
Not responding. She
not-
was available by communication and
She did-
responded.
She did not respond to the call, and her station did not respond to the call. And then she left the workplace to attend to personal business
Why did the station not respond to the call?
because the supervisor wasn't there to ensure that they did.
Did you forget that they had a problem with them? Nobody got the call there? And that there was been problems with that at Station 3? You do
Objection, you're
remember that, don't
testifying,
you?
So
Councilman.
it didn't happen under my
Sustained.
tenure.
You certainly, if you're going to punish somebody for what you say is a repeat offense, I would assume you'd know the facts of it,
I
wouldn't you?
went back to the charging document and I reviewed that, and the facts were similar.
If you look at the charging document and all the documents that this attorney put before him, they actually said there had been problems in the past not getting the call and nobody there got the call. You remember that?
Yeah, but she was disciplined, and that's what I took into consideration.
Sure, she was disciplined. So why are you punishing her again for the same thing? This is a completely different thing, wasn't it?
No, it's not.
Okay. Before had she clocked out?
I believe she didn't clock out before.
Right.
She was
And so this time she followed the procedure and clocked out, correct?
No, she did not follow the procedure. She did not notify her immediate supervisor.
How is she supposed to clock out on CONUS when you don't know how long you're going to be gone? Should you put 1 to 2 hours? Can you do that?
Oh, you can clock out.
No, but she did clock out, correct?
No, she did not.
It doesn't show that she clocked out
She did not clock out. She tried to edit her time after the fact.
and showed that she was gone for 2 hours.
Right.
Okay.
But she did not clock out.
And that was before anybody alleged any charges against her or anything at all, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So she was trying to do it the right way, wasn't she? After the emergency, she's trying to fix it, right?
Well, the right way is not to do it after the fact.
Well, if you're in an emergency situation, do you remember what she said at the time about, and we just heard it about, with no lack of respect for anybody, but I was involved in an emergency situation. I had a mother that was panicking and I need to go take care of that.
Right.
Okay. You don't find any sympathy with that at all?
I asked her if she, when she made that statement, I also asked Crystal, I said, could she have contacted somebody in the chain of command, Deputy Chief Arispe, Deputy Chief Manuel Renta, Assistant Chief Jacob Salinas, or Fire Chief Leonardo Perez, to notify them that she was leaving due to an emergency, and she acknowledged that she could have.
She said it was a possibility. She just wasn't thinking of it at the time without any lack of respect, correct?
I also asked her if she had taken the time to notify her crew and her the lieutenant at the adjacent station, that why could she not have notified somebody in the chain of command? And she acknowledged she could have notified somebody in the chain of command.
Or those people that she notified could have notified the chain of command, couldn't they?
It's not their responsibility.
I'm just saying they could have, though.
They could have, but
Okay.
it's her responsibility to notify.
Sure. And in an emergency situation, you got to follow every rule, dot every I, cross every T, correct? And I'm sure you've dotted every I and crossed every T in your career, haven't you?
It just depends on the situation.
Objection,
It does
argumentative.
depend on the
Sustained.
situation, doesn't it? Okay. And can you imagine in an emergency situation where you weren't expecting to be gone, weren't expecting to leave the front, that maybe you just say, look, I got a crew, I've got to go, I'm going to be gone for an hour. Let me check and make sure Pharr can cover us. I thought he was the one in charge of staffing. That's why I notified him. And so he could make sure and make all the correct calls. You don't think that would be something you would take into consideration?
No.
Okay. All righty. I think I'll pass the witness.
Okay,
Commissioners, can I take a short break real quick?
we can take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 12:46 and we will resume.
Back on the record. Thank you. I have no further questions at this time for Chief Rodriguez.
I'd already passed it.
Oh, okay, well,
Okay.
at this time, before I rest, I'd ask that the exhibit notebook be entered into the record.
Okay. We'll admit it. Do you want to do closing remarks at this time?
Well, I mean,
I have none.
any witnesses or anything?
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, we should have done that first.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's all right. All right, closing arguments then, I guess. All right, sounds good. All right. I appreciate your time. I'll keep this as brief as I can. At the beginning of this hearing, we told you that you were going to hear an overwhelming amount of evidence that stated that these incidents on July 21st, 2021 did in fact happen. They did. We also told you that you'd hear evidence, both testimonial and in written form, which you have from the pre-disciplinary hearing audio recording that you heard, from the response that Lieutenant Crystal Guerra wrote. There is no dispute that she did in fact come into work at 9:30 a.m. on July 21st, 2021. There's no dispute that she at no time sought any approval from her immediate supervisor as per the policy rules for the first incident. There's even no dispute that she told anybody about it when she got on shift. We also told you that there was an incident happened an hour later, which started at 10:30, where she walked off the job, tended to some personal matters that she did not request prior approval before she did that. That is also not disputed. I do want to cover just a couple of things really quickly here. And the testimony here today, or excuse me, the cross-examined testimony here today seemed to key in more on this idea that, well, she had some type of an emergency, therefore there's no way that she could be bothered to seek approval from her immediate supervisor prior to leaving at 10:30. Well, that line of cross-examination has just been debunked, not only by the predisciplinary hearing audio, but her response and also the chief's testimony. The reason for this is very simple. This may have been an emergency. I guess we don't know because we didn't hear any testimony from Lieutenant Guerra here today. It also was not communicated to anybody, like the merits of the emergency at the time, or even shortly thereafter, or really even communicated at the August 5th, 2021 hearing. On top of that, the evidence is just overwhelming that when she left the job at 10:30 a.m., that, by her own admission, she told her crew. By her own admission, she picked up the phone and called an entirely different station lieutenant. She thought to do that. She even told the station lieutenant, hey, I'm going to be gone for an hour or two, right? Not an indeterminate amount of time. It's not like, hey, this is an emergency, I'm going to be gone, I don't know when I'm coming back. No, she specifically said an hour or two, and specifically asked that lieutenant to come and cover her station. Okay. She could have easily, and she also admitted, and it's been testimony here today, written and oral form. She also admitted that she could have done it, right? She said that, well, I could have picked up the phone to do it. Now, why is that important? Because there's no argument here that she was physically incapable of picking up the phone. There's no argument that she was really so distraught that she couldn't talk to her immediate supervisor, because she talked to a bunch of other people, right? In addition to that, again, you heard testimony to this. This is not the first time that Lieutenant Guerra has been dinged for failing to contact her immediate supervisor. Deputy Chief Arispe has been her immediate supervisor for quite a long time, long enough to cover these incidents, and the ones that happened before. And she's not doing it. Now I want to talk real quick to the level of discipline that was imposed, because some of the cross-examination testimony seemed to allude that maybe the discipline was too much for some reason. Well, the chief explained, and so did Deputy Chief Arispe, as to the seriousness of what's happening here, right? We don't have to wait. The firefighters don't wait until something just blows up and goes wrong, right? A call isn't responded to, or somehow, some shape or form, where she leaves and now you have an entirely different district that's got to cover her district. What happens if something happens in both districts at the same time, right? These rules are in place here for a reason. It's a simple chain of command. It's a paramilitary organization, fire department. It relies on a rank and file structure. It's no question her immediate supervisor was Deputy Chief of Respect. All of these things taken into consideration. Again, the testimony that you've heard, there's been literally no challenged evidence. There's been no testimony put on by Lieutenant Guerra, no witnesses, nothing to consider other than the exhibits that are here in this binder and the testimony that's come out here today. And because of that, we are asking that the commission uphold the 10-day discipline that has already been imposed on Lieutenant Guerra. Thank you.
You have any rebuttal or anything, sir?
I already told you. No
Okay,
point.
so we're going into executive session at this time in accordance with sections 551.071 to 551.087 of the Texas Government Code. The Civil Service Commission hereby gives notice that it is convening into executive session to discuss the items listed in the public portion of the meeting agenda. The time now is 12:52. For our Civil Service special meeting, we'll go on to letter I at 1:09 p.m. We go to letter I, consider an action and render a decision of the disciplinary appeal filed by Lieutenant Crystal Guerra, the Pharr Fire Department pursuant to section 143.053, Texas Local Government Code, and the Pharr Civil Service Commission rules. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion finding that Crystal Guerra did substitute time without proper approval and finding Crystal Guerra did leave her post and failed to alert her immediate supervisor in violation of the policies and procedures as outlined in the charging letter, and we uphold the discipline.
There's been a motion, and I'll second that. Being there's a motion and a second, we'll call that to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we'll go on to number 7, legal. There's no action. We'll go on to 8. There is also no action, so do I entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
There's a motion to adjourn this meeting. I second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. I said aye, got it. Opposed, same sign. This meeting is adjourned at 1:11 p.m. Thank